Hello and welcome back to another episode of Podcast 572. As always, I'm your host, Kyle. I'm joined by my two friends, Dan and Matt. We're going to go ahead and kick off with what we've been playing. I have I guess, smorgasbord of various things. I've gone back because, and we'll obviously get into the E3 showcases and stuff, but I went back to Starfield.
What's E3?
The E3 time of year.
Right, okay.
Presentations and stuff, but I've gone back to Starfield, and like I didn't realize that when I had finished, like when I was like I need to take a break from this to play whatever the next game was last fall, I was literally on the last mission in that game. So I went back and kind of like flew through it and was kind of like, as I was playing, I'm like, boy, this really seems like we're getting to a finale here. And then all of a sudden I was in that part where you have to, when you get to the end of that game, you have to choose if you're either going to become the Starborn or if you're going to stay in this reality. Because I guess spoilers for what, an 8 months, 9 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
For like not a lot of people care about.
Not a lot of people care about this part of it, and the point of it is replayability. So, but I guess spoilers for Starfield if you care for like the next 30 seconds. That game's storyline has to do with multiverses, which some people might be turned off by at this point. I think it works well in this game because it allows you to do a new game plus in kind of an interesting way. So if you choose to become Starborn, you walk through this, you basically walk through a white light. It resets the entire game. Might be a little bit slightly different from what I've read, but you basically start over. You don't have, the only thing you retain is your level. So you don't retain any of your equipment, any of your like guns or anything. But you do get the Starborn suit. So that's really weird because the first thing I do is go back to that Constellation group to start like the first mission. And you're literally talking about trying to find what that means while I'm standing there wearing a Starborn suit, which is kind of goofy, but whatever.
I had read, maybe even seen a little bit of, apparently part of the things that can change in like the loops have to take place like in that building. So that building is like, I guess you would call it like the center point of that whole story kind of a thing where.
But what I'll talk about with my disappointment, so they put out a patch the same day as the Xbox presentation, which adds, if you're on console, it adds the ability to mod the game on console, which is cool. But it does go through that creation club thing, so there are people that are upset about that. I haven't touched mods for that game. That's like a down the road thing. But what I am disappointed in is, at least for me, and I guess this is a problem for some people as well, the PC version of that game is broken for me. So what will happen is what happens is if I go to play the game, so I installed the game like fresh maybe a week ago and loaded it up and it played just fine. And then I went back to it right after this patch and it patched and everything. And it comes up and says I'm missing a specific file. It's like old. It's one of the like quote unquote DLCs that have already released. So it's like old Mars dot whatever the file name is, right? That file just doesn't install on my computer when I install the game. Even though I go to the little store page on the Xbox, I'm playing through Game Pass, and it says I've installed it. It's not installing the file for whatever reason. So I can't use my save that I have from the Xbox because obviously it has that file. So I went down the rabbit hole of like Reddit. You know, obviously there are people on Reddit that have done different things to try and get it. None of it has worked. So I said, I'll just go to the Xbox. So it plays at 60 frames there. It looks pretty good on the Xbox. I mean, it's a great way to play it now on the Series X anyways. So it's not like the end of the world or anything, but there are sometimes I come into the office here and I just, want to turn on the TV and mess around with Starfield in here, but it is what it is. So there's that. There is, and this will lead to a story. I played more Supermarket Simulator, probably my game of the year this year. We'll see. I'm sure something else will come out and beat it. But you and I, Dan, on Tuesday night discovered a dark hole of the PlayStation Store, digital store. So I was waiting for you to join a party so we could play some Outriders, and I just was dicking around in the store looking at stuff, and I went down one line of like recent releases, upcoming releases, whatever, and I noticed a game that's called Supermarket Supermarket Simulator like 3D or something. Yeah. So it's a very similar name, and it has like what's that character's name? The Pixar.
It looks like Aunt Cass from Big Hero 6.
Okay, from Big Hero 6,
which is clearly meant to look like that too. Because
it certainly is. But when you look at the screenshots of the game, it's like identical. Like some of the screenshots look a little worse, little off. Yeah. So
product names are different.
It said it was going to release the very next day. And I was like, you know what? I have to know. Like, I just have to know what's going on here. So I released the next day. I bought it. It was only $7, but as we scroll down farther on the store, we found like 3 or 4 more of these games that are just clones. And the funny thing is, like, some of them have like other Pixar-esque looking character.
You know what it is? Yeah, it's like AI art generated.
Yeah, it probably is AI generated art. But there's like a multitude of these games, to the point that we found one that I'm really excited about it. It is a mall supermarket simulator where you control an entire mall. I did not find that on Steam either, so that must just be a PlayStation. But they're all made in Unity. So it must be something that's really easy to kind of copy.
Well,
if you go down the
right?
It's made in Unity as well.
Just assets.
Yeah. So, but it's just like this weird dark hole of the PlayStation network. And it came to the realization, like, obviously, like, PlayStation, the storefront there is probably the least curated. Like, they just don't give a fuck what's put on there.
I mean, I knew for a while that it was somewhat less like monitored, because they have all of those. There was a big thing for a while where like trophy scandal games where it's like, you push a button 100 times and you get a platinum.
Yeah.
So I knew that it at least had some like lax thing. This alone just made you realize that I don't think anybody looks at this stuff. Like,
well, there are no trophies for the supermarket game,
but there is for the other one.
The other one that we looked up.
Business one that's coming out. Trophies for that got like resynced into the system like 2 days ago.
Okay.
So you might have to try that one when it comes out.
For sure. Oh, my goal now, what I've decided is I will try each one of these, and I'm going to make a video about it on the channel, because it's just such a weird thing. So
I mean, it happens every time. It probably happens every time like a weird thing catches on.
It does.
Where, Supermarket Simulator just kind of caught on, and everybody played it for a while.
So I didn't know it was as popular as it is until we got to the Summer Games Fest, and they put up, Jeff Keighley put up that thing behind him that was like, here are the top 10 Steam games this year, which like obviously Helldivers and stuff's on there, but Supermarket Simulator was in that top 10. I didn't know that. So, I mean, personally now I put 90 hours into that game, so which is ridiculous because they haven't put anything new in it, but I just keep building my store and keep resetting it. The other thing, while I was going through the thing on my PC and trying to get Starfield to work and giving up on that, I had forgotten that on Game Pass they added Lords of the Fallen, which is a play anywhere game. And obviously I have this 4070 video card, and I thought, well, I'll try it here. I do have a PS5 copy of the game as well that I just haven't tried yet. So, but I was like, I'll download it. I'll try it here. If I like what I'm, playing, I'll go pull out my PS5 copy and play it there, because I'd rather play that type of game with a PlayStation controller. So I loaded it up. I installed it. It runs perfectly fine on PC for me. I know they've done a lot of patches and stuff for the game. And I enjoyed like the little intro part of it. I was like, this is pretty good. It's scratching the Dark Souls itch. Again, this was all the tutorial part of the game. So I was like, okay, this is done enough. I'll go pull the copy off the shelf and I'll install it on the PlayStation. And keep in mind, I'd only played a little bit of the tutorial. So I went and did that, installed on the PlayStation, played through the part that I already played on PC. And then I got to what the crux of this game is how it handles its enemies. So the whole point of Lords of the Fallen is it has like 2 different worlds that exist. Like, remember that game, The Medium, that came out a couple years ago?
Yeah.
And the whole thing about that game was you could switch between the two realities because it was running two instances of the game at the same time.
Power the Series X.
Okay. This game does the same thing, but it runs obviously much better than that game did. And this probably explains why when Lords of the Fallen came out last fall, it ran terrible before they patched it. So, because it runs fine on the PlayStation as well. I had no problems. But here's the problem I have with the game. So when you get a little bit further into the tutorial, they implement this mechanic where, okay, it's already Dark Souls combat. Dark Souls is already meant to be, challenging game. But they add this thing to it where you have to flip to one part, like the one reality, to defeat this orb that has like a shield around the enemy. And then once you defeat that orb, then you go back to the other reality and fight the enemy. And it is way too complicated. So after fighting like 3 enemies like that, it's not every enemy, but it's a majority of the enemies you fight. So after doing like 2 or 3 of those, I was like, if this is what this entire game is, I'm not interested. That's too complicated. And so now I understand why people had reservations about it when it came out. So Lords of the Fallen, I actually deleted it today to make room for something else. So maybe I'll try it again down the road. But when I saw that and saw how complicated the combat was going to be at that point, I was like, I'm not interested in this right now. I played more Kingdoms of Amalur. Just that's kind of my, like, I don't have anything else going on, so I'm playing this on the PlayStation. And then today I got my copy of Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. I have installed it. I loaded it up. I have the original version that came out on the Switch. I got it when it came out. My problem with that game was it ran like shit on the Switch, like sub 20 frames, which is why I didn't play it there. So I have and that had a steelbook too, now that I think about it. But I waited. At that point, I was like, I'm just going to wait because this game will be popular and I'm sure they'll make a new release for it for current gen systems, which they did, obviously now. But the big change here, because I played a little bit of the original. So the big change here, and I think this is cool because I don't think this is how Persona 5 Golden works. I never played Golden. I only played the original version, but it starts in the beginning and lets you make the choice if you want to play the original story or the new story that they put in there, which is like the Vengeance story.
Oh, okay.
So you have to pick between either rescuing this girl from the abyss or letting her stay there. So if you rescue her from the abyss, that starts the Vengeance storyline. If you leave her there, then you just play the normal game. And I assume don't interact with that character again.
Probably not.
So I'm going the normal route because I didn't get that far into the original game. But I thought that was cool that you could do that right off the bat. It's not like, hey, you have to play 40 hours and then maybe you get this choice or something. So that pretty much covers what I've been playing. Like I've just been kind of going through little things, waiting for Shin Megami. So, and that literally the day we're recording is when it came out. So I'll have a lot more to say on that next time we record because I plan on deep diving on it now. If you've never played a Shin Megami, for anybody watching or listening, like it's like a demonic Pokemon. Like, pretty much easiest way to describe it. It's like just like really dark Pokemon. A lot of it has a much more somber tone than Persona, so it's much darker. Yeah, but very cool. I played so much of the 3DS one, Shin Megami 4. So that's why I was excited for this. So, but I'll kick it over to you, Dan.
Really haven't played anything that is like new to me. It was mainly like just progressing and random other stuff. Like you mentioned, we played some more Outriders.
Yeah.
We're probably pretty close at this point. We have to be close, I think.
We have to be close because we now have done those like 3 beacon things or whatever, and that's going to open that door. That's where we left it.
Through the gate
so that's got to be close to the end.
Yeah, and plus we're like level 28, 29-ish.
Pretty high.
And world tier 13 or whatever it is. I don't know. That game's still good, still fun.
Yeah.
We're getting crazier weapons and crazier powers, which make the game more fun towards the end.
It does.
Sure. Because early on it's pretty basic, but now it's the weapon.
Well, like I got that gun that I was shooting that was putting down those gold shields, and we didn't realize until I looked at it that was my gun doing that. So,
so
there's stuff like that. That's cool.
That game still it's still not bad. I played more of that Ghostbusters game. Just leveling up and trying to get all the trophies and stuff out of that. That's still a really good game. It's still fun. We have to do a lot more like playing as the ghost stuff coming up.
Okay.
So we'll see how that goes. I played some of that with like bots and stuff, and it's fine, but it's definitely not as fun as
with people
being like the Ghostbuster and being people on it.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. The other major thing I did was MLB The Show Season 2 started, where basically they reset your cards. So all the the great cards you earned until now are ineligible to use for the new stuff. So you kind of have to start over, which is, it's a bummer and it's not, because by the time I got to the point where that season ended, my team was ridiculous. Yeah. So having to rebuild it is good. And then, like, you can progress far enough where you can unlock the ability to use some of the old cards. So like I can use one of my 99s. It's just more baseball though. I mean, what can they really do to change it beyond just giving me more stuff to progress through and do? But
at this point, yeah.
And it's one of those things where I can play it and not think and just have something on in the background or whatever. More Rogue Galaxy, which that is actually the game I've probably played the most and progressed the most in. I'm finally at a point now where I'm farther than I ever was in the PS2 era.
Okay,
which is good because I'm starting to see more of what the game actually wanted you to do and go around. That game's difficulty spike is pretty weird though. Like, it does get pretty hard.
It gets pretty hard.
Yeah, it's odd because you can go through an area, it can be kind of challenging just because things will wear you down. But then you get to the boss and the boss will crush you. And you kind of have to like go back and think and like strategize what you're going to try to do and make sure you have enough items. So you might have to go back and get more items. There was one fight where I just died over and over and over again. I finally had to like cheese it and stand far away from the guy and just spam an ability that would damage him from a distance as much as I could, and then refill my ability points and just keep spamming it just because I couldn't figure out a way to do it other than that. I don't understand. But I like that. I still like that game a lot. Like, I'm finally getting into like the weapon fusing stuff, which doing it the correct way as opposed to when I played it the last way, which was just fusing things when you could. That's a bad idea in that game because there's definitely a proper like upgrade path. I finally have all the characters. I finally have the ability to go to whatever planet I want and like go back and forth and do stuff, which that doesn't have much of a purpose right now, but it's nice to at least have finally like reach the freedom part of the game.
Yeah.
Where I can there's like bounties I can go do where I have to go find specific enemies and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that game's, it's still really good. It makes me want to play Dark Cloud when I'm done.
Do you have that on the PlayStation?
I have both of those.
I have both of them too. Yeah.
So I think I
never played Dark Cloud 2.
The thing about 1 and 2,
I played the shit out of the first one.
God, the first one's so good. On PS2 I beat it. On PS4 I played it a tiny bit, but I want to go back and do that again. 2 and 1, they're similar in some
different
ways,
art styles,
but they're pretty different. Yeah, they have far different art styles. 2 almost makes it almost cartoony looking.
I was gonna say, doesn't 2 almost look like a Harvest Moon type game visually?
A little bit. It kind of looks more like Rogue Galaxy because the first one is definitely meant to look more real and like gritty.
Yeah.
But those games are really good. And speaking of PS2 on PS4 games, like I'm excited because Tomb Raider Legend came out for it. And
so, let me ask this: those ones, so those just got announced. Do you have to have premium or extra or whatever? You buy them, okay? Yeah. Because I saw, I don't know if it's up yet or if it's coming, but that Ghost Hunter game
that's coming soon
and that is one that I will buy because
they added like Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3, and the craziest part is all these games have trophies and platinums, and
that's why I'm excited about Ghost Hunter.
Yeah, and the thing is
that game was so good.
I want this trend to continue like full force. I want everybody to get on board. Like Sly Cooper,
I do too.
Come in and stuff, but I would kill to have like the bouncer for PS2.
That'd be good.
And just random shit like that where it at least exists again where I could play it again and not have to. I mean, I have a PS2 I can hook up.
What's the one I'm thinking of? Is it called like Eternal Ring or something?
Eternal
like
Ring is one.
That'd be a good one.
There's
it's from that early era.
Like Summoner 2 would be great to have.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like those kind of games which would just be awesome if they just showed up on PS4.
Yeah.
And you know what? even though you could buy them separately, if that was a thing where they decided to like lock it behind premium, like sorry, it's premium only, that actually would
be a pretty good incentive.
I'd think about it more.
Well, and that's why I was asking, because I'm like, the prospect of being able to play that Ghost Hunter game with trophies and on a modern console would be enough for me to consider going back to that service.
The thing is like you're still playing weird PS2 versions of these games. Like the Tomb Raider Legend is PS2 when a PS3 copy of that game does exist.
I did read that that Tomb Raider Legend was kind of not the best port of it.
It's not going to be because it's the PS2. It's the PS2 version of a PS3 and 360 game, but it's still cool that it exists. The Toy Story 3, I think, is the PSP version of the game.
Okay.
But that's supposed to be a really good version of that game, which, I mean, I might even go get that.
Ghost Hunter is one of the last few games I remember renting from our local dollar video.
Ooh.
So I have a strong reverence for that game. And like,
I remember that game too.
I liked when I read the articles, like, this is a little known game not many people played. Like, I played it.
Yeah, but
I thought it was a badass game.
I would say that was not a game that a lot of people
it was one that I didn't even know. Like, I'd never seen anything on it, like in any of the magazines I had read or any of the websites at the time. I just remember going to the video store and being like, what is this?
I can picture it. I can actually picture it in Game Crazy, like on the web. I can picture it on the shelf at Dollar Video, because I remember picking up, looking at it, and be like, I don't know what this is, but this looks fantastic. And renting it falls into that like weird sea level type of game where,
because that game was like 2005, right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. It definitely was late in the PS2.
It would have been before the 360.
It was like right around the same time, though.
Yeah, because it probably was the summer before the 360. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely towards the end of like the generations kicking over to the next stuff.
Really cool.
I mean, for PS3, technically, you still had
and it's hard as fuck to find. I don't think I've ever seen like when we've been out hunting. I don't know if I've ever seen that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I feel like I should have been looking for it, and I just never remembered to. So maybe we looked past it a couple times.
And like like when we go out, like I'm not really huge on collecting PS2 stuff. Like maybe I should get to that point, but I feel like of that generation, like that's, I guess GameCube is pretty expensive too, but like PS2 is getting there. So that's why I'm always looking for original Xbox stuff, but that is a game that I would like to get.
PS2 is definitely like a section of stuff that you should start looking for.
There is, yeah.
And then the last thing I did, just because I need to finish it, I guess, was I played Chapter 2 of Tales from the Borderlands.
Okay.
I still maintain that the story of that is very good.
Yeah,
it's not much of a game.
Okay,
like you can't really fail. It's mostly some QTEs. Some of these chapters are just 10 minutes of dialogue, so it's kind of strange.
Oh, wow.
Where you just make like
weird.
one or two choices that don't affect anything. But the story is very good, and it's at least interesting, and I want to see how it continues. But it's really not much of a game. And then you start to think back to like, was Walking Dead that much of a game? I guess not really. Like, it's weird to me now that became a huge like genre of stuff where they just pump that stuff out. Like crazy, when there's really not much to them, and then they all died. But yeah, that's kind of it for me. I'm just killing time until college football next month.
So the real question is, you looked at Forspoken and said, not this week.
It's right there. I guess I could. Maybe I should, because I told you, but my Baldur's Gate 3 physical edition is supposed to ship.
That's cool.
In the next couple days. So when I get that, that's probably going to be all I do for a while. So maybe I should do the
You're at a good point right now where I'd say that's a good game to get lost in when there's not really much of anything coming out right now.
The only thing I'm going to have is college football, and those are so different that I can go back and forth between those pretty easy.
There's
but like sometimes you just need to take a break from something and play something else that's super different. So sports and Baldur's Gate 3 is
that's a pretty good mashup. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. But other than that, I really haven't played anything else.
What about you, Matt?
I started playing The Quarry. Because it was on Game Pass.
It's on Game Pass, yeah.
Yeah. And I have a physical edition, but I was like, well, if I don't have to open it, let's just go ahead and just
there you go.
Into it. What I read, there's like 12 chapters of that game, and I think I'm on chapter 7 right now.
Okay.
So hopefully I can breeze through it by the end of the weekend. I
don't remember it being.
Mind it.
I don't remember it being like extremely long.
No,
it's not bad.
No, it's not really. It's actually pretty fun. The only voice actor that kind of throws me off is it seems like there's a lot of pausing between dialogue sometimes, so it doesn't feel as fluid as it possibly could. But honestly, it's not anything that just like turns me off of the game.
That might not even be necessarily an acting problem. That might be just the game's design.
Yeah, that's what I figured too. So I'm having fun with it.
My issue with that game was because it's made by the same people that do that anthology series, the Dark Pictures, and I think the stories of those are better.
Gotcha.
But they're shorter. Like that's the thing. They're meant to be much shorter. I have not played the most recent one, the Devil Within or whatever.
Yeah,
that's the one that I've been trying to find. I'm waiting for a physical copy to be like $10.
Yeah,
but I own all the other ones, and they are all equally good and interesting and different. So, and with this game, I just kind of felt like they took. Obviously, it's a longer game. They had a bigger budget for it than the other ones, but I think the thing that works for that team with their storytelling is telling those tighter, shorter stories. So, but not a bad game.
It's not a bad game. So,
good Game Pass game.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm hoping to breeze through that. I also then picked up, Hotline Miami a couple weeks ago, and I decided to jump into that because it just looked kind of interesting. I am having a blast with that game.
Drive the video game is what that is.
Yeah.
The Ryan Gosling movie.
Mm-hmm. I did get stuck on one chapter for a good half a day because I just could not find a way around not making noise and then like getting through doors and stuff like that. But I mean, it's awesome so far what I played with it, and I think I'm on like chapter 6 of that one too. I know.
Well, I think that's the thing that's cool about it too, because it boils down to that game is really a puzzle game.
Yeah,
it's to figure out how to take out all these enemies without getting killed. Each different like room and section. So you get those different masks that have different abilities.
Yeah, I realized there's I think it's the werewolf one where you get to kick in doors and it like kills the other people on it. That's been like the best one to utilize right now.
Okay.
But yeah, I've been having a blast with that. I ran a little more of Helldivers with a friend. That game just continues to still be great.
Was that pre or post this new patch that just came out?
I think it was pre-patch.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try and finish up Hotline Miami and the Quarry this weekend, so I can at least delete them, and then I can start working on something else. Because I keep buying games. Dude, Steam keeps running me because they have sales like crazy, and I just
all the storefronts right now are having good sales on stuff.
Like, I guess I'm in my simulator era right now because that's what I just keep buying. Thief Simulator was like $2, and I was like, well, why not? It's already here. So I bought that, and I'm gonna hope to dive into that too. I did buy the Ascent. It's like the Diablo style game. It's like top-down type thing. I haven't gotten very far into it. I literally just made my character and probably walked around for the first like 2 minutes.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens.
I remember when it came out because it was a Game Pass game that I just never got to. So, but for $4, that's a good deal for it.
Yeah, it looked cool. I've been trying to like just pay more attention to like those sales and just kind of like going off of the pictures and the images and the trailers, and then I'm like, let's just dive in and see what happens with this one. So like I said, I'll try to get through all of that. Maybe I can talk a little more about that, and maybe I can play some Thief Simulator in my life and see how
it's funny because I think whatever day I turned on my computer, loaded up Steam to play Supermarket Simulator, I saw that you had bought Thief Simulator, and I clicked on it because like, I'll see what price it is. I should probably pick that up because it's another one of those weird simulators. Like I own so many of those. Like Drug Dealer. There's a Drug Dealer Simulator 2 coming out this month.
Oh,
I think like maybe next week. and it looks insane compared to the first one. I have the first one.
Okay.
But I didn't realize I already own Thief Simulator, so it must have came in a bundle at some point. So I should probably look at it. So at some point, because it does seem really cool.
It looked pretty dope.
But all those simulator games are pretty good. There's the other one I saw that I don't have that I'm thinking about picking up because it was on sale is the electrician one, where you can be an electrician. That sounds pretty cool. Yeah. So that seems pretty interesting. So, but yeah.
Yeah, but that was my 2 weeks.
Yeah, like I said, every one of these digital storefronts are having crazy sales right now because it's that time of year. So, it's E3, non-E3, Summer Games, whatever, the Keighley Fest, whatever you want to call it. Most people I saw, because I think I saw like a Twitter poll or something. Most people still just call it E3 because that's just what it is.
Even the major things we're still calling it E3.
Yeah, like it's the spirit of E3 is not going to die. So, but we can kick over to news. There's a lot of news. Obviously, last time we recorded, we talked about the disappointing PlayStation State of Play. There are other conferences we need to get through that we can talk about. But the first thing I put on here, because I think this was announced right before Summer Games Fest, was not part of it. Like literally right before it, which this would have been a cool thing to have at that show, considering. But
cool to like show off like a trailer for it.
Night Dive Studios, which are known for making excellent remakes and remasters of like 90s shooters, which I own pretty much all of them. Like they did all the Turoks, they did Doom 64. Most recently, they did that PO'd game.
Yeah.
They've done a shit ton of stuff. All good. Shadow Man, which I just picked up on the PlayStation because it's finally on sale.
Yeah.
They are taking on what I'd say is probably their most ambitious remaster now. They're remastering the 2002 John Carpenter's The Thing game. From the Xbox PS2 era, which is fantastic.
It's a great game. Okay.
It'll be out. I believe it's out on everything. So later this year. So, but I am super excited to play that again. I've not played it in like 20 years. So
yeah, I think we played it once. A buddy and I played it together once when it came out.
It was a really cool game. I mean, you and I were talking about it too. Like there is a pattern to it, so it's not like procedurally generated. But
yeah, I think part of me was disappointed when it first was announced because they made it seem like anybody could become the Thing. And you had to constantly check people to see if they were the Thing. But then you realize pretty quickly that it's not possible because it would break the game in certain ways, because at certain points in the game, you need people to open doors or do other things. So I remember specifically we tested it once where we tested one guy in a room and he wasn't the Thing. And we're like, okay. And then you walk through a doorway and then you test him again and then he is a Thing. So there's three like barriers in the game where obviously I think changing any of that now would break it. I
think it would break it to the point where you'd have to just remake the game.
Right. It would be a different game, which you don't need to do. But that game had awesome moments in it where.
Yes, it did.
I think I told you one of my favorite things that happened to us was one of our like team member guys, he disappeared and we couldn't find him. So we're like, what is going on? So we start backtracking through the level and we found him just like in a room by himself. And he was just standing there like staring at the wall. And then he killed himself.
That's fucked up. Yeah.
And we're like, what the hell just happened in here? And then, and it turns out, I think that's like a scripted thing that could happen or whatever, but it was amazing because this is
a neat thing at the time. Yeah, I was gonna say that's pretty ahead of its time when it came. Game. That's what I remember of the game was it was very ahead of its time.
Yeah, if you like the movie at all, it is.
Love the movie.
It's just a
favorite.
It's one of my favorites.
So, but big John Carpenter household here. So, but so that was announced like right before Summer Games Fest, which I think did it a little disservice. Like that would have been a cool announcment at this show.
Would have been an awesome trailer in somebody's show.
Because unfortunately, this showcase I didn't think was very good either. I think it was
about Jeff and friends.
Jeff Keighley's.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it was better than the Sony one because there was at least a little bit more here that at least that interests me. But
it just felt like there was more bloated. In general.
It shouldn't have been 2 hours long.
No.
Like was it longer than 2 hours?
Honestly, it felt longer. Are we sure it wasn't 3?
I don't think it was 3, but it was either 2 or 2.5. But it was too long.
It had post-show stuff too, so I mean,
I didn't watch any of that. I mean, I always like turn it on like early enough that I am ready for the stream. So I always use the IGN one. So I see those people talk about their predictions, but that's always just a chuckle. So some of the things they showed here, and that was the other problem with this showcase in particular, is a lot of it was leaked ahead of time. A lot. Like of these two that we're going to talk about, a lot more was leaked from this one than the other one. So they announced one of the biggest leaks is Lego Horizon Adventures. This was leaked like probably the same day. I want to say like hours before the show.
Technically, you could go back a couple of weeks to find evidence that it existed.
Okay. But the big news here is that this game is also on Switch.
Weird.
But
so
not
weird.
the Xbox.
Wow.
So I mean, we know why. No, it never was going to. But I mean, I already saw. It's just weird to see because I saw the box art for it, and it literally is a box art that has the PlayStation Studios logo on it for the Switch. It's so weird to see.
Wow.
You saw the other thing about that game, right? What system it's not on?
What's on the Xbox?
It's not on PS4.
Oh, no, yeah, it's only PS5. That's the other important thing. I didn't think about that. Yeah, it's only on PS5 and Switch, which is weird because...
That's odd, because if it's on Switch, it could literally be
Is it not anything. On PS4? Yeah.
But...
I mean, if you're still into the Lego games, it looks fine.
My son is very into this game.
Yeah.
He wants it for Switch.
And it's not going to be open world like a typical Horizon game either. It's very much the classic level to level. They showed up. I
want to play it.
I have nothing against it. I'm just not interested in it. So, Quidditch Champions, which I will say my complaint about this is going to start with a few games here, which is I'm over the Fortnite cartoon graphic style, and we see it a lot between these couple showcases with multiple games.
We talked about this Quidditch thing back when we were talking about Hogwarts Legacy, like last year, where
they removed that from that game.
Where it wasn't in that game on purpose, and I think I might have even mentioned at the time, like, so that they could sell you a Quidditch game separately. And ta-da, they did.
They did,
because they've realized the success of Harry Potter is to break it up into as many different things as possible and sell you all of it, because look at what's coming next after that. Director's cut of Hogwarts Legacy. They're going to sell you the same game again. They're going to sell you the best-selling game of last year again.
It was so ridiculous that it was. No more Room in Hell 2. I never even heard of the first one, to be fair, but it's a big zombie game. I think the big thing here is that it has 8-player co-op.
It looks cool.
Yeah, it looks cool.
I think a problem with this is the first instance of it, but a problem with a lot of this show is I'm not a PC person. I immediately could not play a quarter of the stuff that got shown here. Yeah. Maybe more. But this game, I was like, man, that looks cool. And then when I realized when they said it was like 8-player co-op, I was like, I bet you that's PC only. And then it comes out PC. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. They did the thing that they do every year, which is here's a teaser for a game that's going to be at this company's showcase later in the week. Which there was a couple of these, I think, at various shows. But for this one, it was Star Wars Outlaws. They showed a very quick teaser, and then they showed more, obviously a lot more of that game at the Ubisoft thing, which I did not watch. Because at that point I was like, this is done now. But I don't know. I'm not interested in Star Wars Outlaws at this point.
That game comes out in 2 months.
It comes out in 2 months.
That's weird.
It's going to be, I'm more interested to see at this point, and we'll talk more about Star Wars later because we got an email about Star Wars, but I'm more interested to see how this game fares now with the remaining Star Wars fan base. So, considering some of the things they've done recently, but they announced Civilization 7 is coming. It's coming out next year, but coming to consoles as well.
Yeah, that got leaked like right before too.
Literally like an hour before. Yeah.
But I mean, awesome. It's time for a new Civ game, and for them to just put it on consoles like immediately is a huge step forward for that game. So you're not getting a what could potentially be a bad version of it a year later.
That would be the first time they've ever done this, right?
Right at the same time, yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah.
New Dragon Ball game, is it Sparking? I keep wanting to say Sparkling.
Yeah.
Sparking Zero, release date set for October 11th. Is this another fighting?
Aren't they?
Is it a fighting one or is it an RPG like that? No, well, remember there was that one that came out, which I bought at some point, but that one was more of an RPG. But I think this is more like that one fighting game that the fighters.
I think it's a fighting game.
Okay.
Another game not on PS4. It's finally happening.
It's finally happening in some instances, but then in other instances not.
Yeah. It's also too late.
They put out, which this is even more damning. They put out the story trailer for Batman Arkham Shadow, which story looks good. I'll admit, like, the story for this looks good, but it's a MetaQuest 3 game. I showed this trailer to my girlfriend, who then after watching the trailers basically asked, "Are we going to get a MetaQuest 3?" Which I said no.
No.
And she said, "But it's an Arkham game." I said, "No, I don't want to get a MetaQuest 3." So more to come, which means we'll probably get a MetaQuest 3 at some point, but because she's going to be hard about it because it's an Arkham game. But like, it's a bummer because like to not make a new Batman game for almost 10 years and then come back, go, okay, we have a story. And the story here is interesting, even though I made the joke to her, which was, yeah, halfway through the game, they're going to take off the Rat King masks and put on Joker masks. But it's a bummer because they even got Roger Craig Smith back to voice Batman. He did it for Arkham Origins. He was good as Batman. So, and the story seems really interesting, but it's trapped in a VR game. So I don't know. It's a bummer to me because I just, especially coming off of the Suicide Squad game being the disaster it is, it just hurts even more. There's not a new Batman game. Street Fighter 6 is getting a Fatal Fury crossover, which looked pretty cool.
Yeah, that's good.
That looks pretty cool.
I need to get some points too.
That game I just saw too. Like I can't remember if it was in a physical store like Walmart or something, but I did see it on sale, like $30.
Yeah, it's been on sale on the shop a couple times too already.
So not too
longer
bad.
than you think it has.
I thought this was a cool part of the show, but it was also kind of weird. We had this announcement, I think it was at the Game Awards last year, where Blumhouse Studios that make the horror movies were going to get into video games. They're getting into video games a big way. They announced like 6 different games here. Again, all indie games. They're going after indie creators, and I'll say like not every game interested me, but the one that stuck out to me in here was the one that was like, and unfortunately, I can read the names of them, but I don't know which one it was. But it was the one that was a farming simulator, but also had a murder mystery going on.
Yeah.
That looked really cool. So, but this is a really cool thing, I think. So I will always champion more horror games. For you, Dan, probably the best announcement of this really showcase. This is cool. Like I'm even interested in this. The Power Rangers Rita's Rewind. Is this made from this? Is this made by the same people that made the Turtles?
No,
it is not. Okay,
they did the Cowabunga collection. They did not do Shredder's Revenge.
Oh, okay. They didn't do Shredder's Revenge.
They are familiar with beat 'em ups, but they did not make Shredder's Revenge.
Okay. This looks rad.
It looks cool. So you and I talked about it immediately after. Like the song in it was amazing.
Amazing.
Like, a great remix of that song.
Fantastic remix.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say about it, and this is just me being a Power Rangers fan in general, especially in a time period where the new show is now screwed. Obviously, they never made that second movie. They discontinued the toy line. Like Power Rangers is kind of dead right now. The only thing about this game is I understand why it's the original team, but we do that every single time.
They do.
It's always and it's not even like the newer version of the original team. It's the original people. It's like I get it. That's always going to be the most popular one. The new show was supposed to be them rebooting that, which I understand. Pick a different team. Like there's literally a lot of them. Or why can't if we're gonna do this like rewind and we're doing time travel and stuff? Why isn't this like not a multiverse thing because it is one shared universe for the most part? But why isn't this like we've got 5 different Red Rangers from different teams, and like pulling in all these other random people, that would be a lot more fun because it would have different powers and different weapons and all that stuff.
No, so I agree there.
We did like some Dino Thunder people in here, or even like the newest season. You can have more fun making a Power Ranger game. Like this one does look fun because it's not just a beat 'em up. It's also there's like shooter sections and like some racing stuff. But my ideal game would be multiple teams of Rangers doing stuff. And especially since you don't really need voice actors for a cartoon Power Ranger game. They just
not really no
text messages. It's fine.
Yeah. You really wouldn't need that here.
That's what I want. That's what I would make if I could.
Mecha Break, which is it a 5v5 game? Mecha Break, or is it just a
I don't know
a mech shooter? But
I don't think this one was specifically the 5.
I don't think it was a 5v5.
Yeah, I mean there's a couple later, but
there are a couple later, but
I don't think that this one was. It looked like a weird
Gundam
thing at the beginning. I was like, is this a Gundam thing?
I thought it was a Gundam game because I got excited.
Yeah, and then it became like generic Gundam. I was like, okay, I think people will play it for a little bit, but how long is it going to last?
Yeah, it's got a beta test in August. I'm interested in checking this out because it's free to play, but the I guess it's been in development for a while, but the free to play looter shooter, The First Descendant, has a release date of July 2nd. That's going to be on it's on everything.
Everything.
This game's going to be on PS4 and Xbox One, which I love watching that trailer. I don't know how. They did not. Here's the thing. They didn't show any gameplay really in that trailer. It was kind of like a CG story trailer, but I did go look later. They did put out footage of gameplay, and the gameplay looks pretty good.
It does look. It looks interesting. Like
it's something that I would like to try.
It's free to play, so we can.
It's a next. Isn't it a Nexon game?
Yeah,
I believe so.
I play, you know me. I play Honkai and Genshin and all that stuff. We can certainly jump in and play this for a day or two.
Yeah,
it's like.
One of the bangers at this show that unfortunately I do have it. I have not had a chance to sit down and play it. I do plan on playing it hopefully before the next time we record.
The hottest section of the show.
It was. Alan Wake 2 got its first DLC, so there will be 2 DLCs for this game. The other one's going to be out in October. But the Night Springs DLC is out. At the time they announced it was coming out the very next day.
You missed the beginning announcement where everybody's favorite person, Sam Lake, came out.
He came out, did some dancing.
He needs to be protected at all costs.
He does.
And
dude's rad.
He did the little, you want a physical copy? Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. Awesome. I'm so glad I waited because I'm just going to buy that instead.
Yeah. No, it's cool that they're making a physical copy. It's cool that you can buy it anywhere. Because at first when they announced it seemed like it was only going to be through limited run, which I was like, ooh, that's
because they have the ridiculous collectors.
They have the collector's edition, but you can buy this still, and it's $80, but you get everything, so you get the 2 DLCs
too.
So and if you don't have that, you get a digital copy of it, which is cool. But this DLC looks really cool, very self-aware.
I mean,
one of the things that's really cool is you get to play as Jesse Faden again from Control. You get to play as I forget the guy's name, but the guy from Quantum Break.
I think it's something
that
Breaker,
character,
isn't it? Isn't his last name like Breaker?
I forget what his last name is. And then you get to play as the one waitress from the diner in Alan Wake 2. Yeah, Rose. So
that was a bang trailer because when it said replayable characters, immediately you were like, well, Jesse's one of them.
Yeah.
And then when they showed the guy from Quantum Break, it was like, holy shit. Like,
it just looks more off the rails, but at the same time, they're doing what I want them to do, which is just combine all of it.
It just fits.
Yeah. It's all in its one universe now.
And I told you after, I was like, Quantum Break remaster when?
Yeah, that'd be cool. I just, over the early part, maybe a couple months ago, I rebought Quantum Break on PC. So I want to give that game a fair, because I played it when it came out. I don't remember much of it at all.
I don't either, but I don't remember not liking it.
I remember being like, that was fine. Yeah. So my biggest thing about that game at the time was when it came out, you could not install that game without having those huge half-hour cutscenes, because it was supposed to be a TV show too.
It was kind of messy with what it
was. Messy. Yeah.
So I would love to see a remaster that somehow cleans that up.
Be cool.
Yeah.
They showed Skate again. Skate at this point my problem with Skate is it's taking so long that the people that want a new Skate are not going to care when it comes out.
I told you though, like the thing about the Skate game is it's not made for you anymore. It's made for the junior high kids and the high school kids, or the kids that used to come in and rip it off the shelf, and we would sell multiple copies of all the time.
Do you think because of that, then it's the way that they're developing it is a smart idea?
Yes.
That it's just going to be a free to play.
Yes.
Okay.
They want people just to get in there to play it and mess around and hope to get the Skate bucks or the EA coins or the, whatever they're going to call them. To buy your own special grip tape and your own bearings and all this shit. That's all digital, but it's $10. Like, that's what they want. And they just want the kids to jump in and play it. They want it to be Fortnite, but for skateboards.
Yeah. Yep. They spent way too much time talking about Valorant. Valorant is coming to console. I mean, that's fine, but I feel like they spent a half hour talking about Valorant. They had the people that made Among Us come out. They showed a little clip of the TV show that's coming out later this year, the cartoon, and then they announced a new initiative that is meant to help lend a hand to indie developers and like offer funding and stuff, because that company obviously has a shit ton of money off of Among Us.
But I think there's a bit of a thing about where, well, it happened to us, we're gonna make it happen for other people. It's like indie games hit 1 out of 100, 1 out of 1,000.
You don't know if it's gonna be a success or not.
No,
that's the
Supermarket Simulator is the 1 out of 100.
I was gonna say Pal World is the 1 out of 100.
1 out of 100. But
I'd say that one's 1 out of a billion.
Look how many like indie things got announced like this week, where you're just immediately like, don't care, do not care, we'll never play it. No one's ever gonna play that. Yeah, like
it is what it is.
It's cool. It's cool that you made a game and you got funding and you were able to make the thing you wanted. But I think some of these people might be thinking that this will make it for us. And it's like, well, maybe not.
They showed a cinematic trailer for Dune Awakening, which is that open world MMO. I mean, I will tell you, even as a fan of the book and the movies, I'm not interested in that game. Just because it's an MMO.
Yeah, it might be a little too late. Maybe you wanted that to come out before.
Yeah, maybe. Although I would tell you, after seeing Dune 2, there will be a third movie. There has to be.
That's true.
So, one of the other, at least for me, banner trailers of the showcase was Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I think the game continues to look fantastic. That game also, kind of like another one we're going to talk about with the next showcase, but this game also brings me back like Oblivion vibes in a really good way.
Yeah.
But like, it just looks like the story looks really good. So, which reminded me, like, I need to go back and play the first one. So, but I don't believe they put out they didn't put out a release date here. It's just sometime this fall, but that game continues to look fantastic.
It does look good.
Well, now let's take a nice U-turn from that to terrible territory. Slitterhead finally made its appearance after what? It's been 2 or 3 years since it showed up at a PlayStation showcase. It looks bad.
It looks awful.
Like really bad. Like, I was excited when it came up because like, okay, let's see what the Silent Hill dude's been up to. He went underground with this game for a couple of years. None of it looks good.
I can't tell you what it is. What is it?
I can't tell you what it is.
Am I the Slitterhead?
Yeah, like what is a Slitterhead? There's like I didn't like it.
Am I slitting into your head when I'm jumping between people?
It looks like here's the best way I can describe it. It looks like a worse version of Ghostwire Tokyo.
It also gave me strong Third Birthday vibes where you're like jumping between people.
Yeah.
And it also reminded me of, I forget the name of it, and maybe you'll remember. You remember that Denzel movie where like they would touch you and they'd become the demon or something? You know what I'm talking about. I think John Goodman's in it.
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the name of it.
Vibes of, I could be anybody kind of a thing.
Yeah, I remember it, but yeah.
The game, it also like doesn't look good.
No.
It
doesn't look good at all.
4 at best.
Yeah. I was not. It comes out November 8th.
That seems too soon for that to come out.
It did not hit for me at all.
No.
They showed more of Delta Force.
That looks good.
Delta Force looks pretty all right. That they're gonna have a alpha test in July. They also announced like the campaign, which is the based around what Black Hawk Down, which is a remake awesome. Of the original campaign that they had done, which is cool.
We've talked about it in the past. I love Delta Force. It's like the OG.
I'm excited to play a new Delta Force after 20 years. Yeah. So. This was kind of one of the weirder ones at the showcase. Killer Bean.
I did not like this at all.
You didn't like it? Okay. It
looks like the toy chicken McNugget.
I didn't know he was. I didn't know he was a bean. Yeah, he doesn't look like a bean to me. I agree with you.
Look at this picture. How does he not look like a plastic molded representation of the McDonald's?
Now that you say that, I'm pretty sure my girlfriend asked if he was a chicken McNugget too.
I remember the toys. They were like little.
Yeah.
He's a chicken nugget.
I don't know. I'm interested to see how it turns out, but it was an odd one. So we transitioned from that. This was kind of the indie part of the showcase. They showed off the Stanley Parable creators' new game, Wander Stop. It's just like kind of weird.
It could be interesting.
It could be interesting.
Depends on where it goes.
Yeah.
I think when you hear Stanley Parable creator, you have an idea in your head of what that game would be, but this doesn't seem like that at all.
I will say it's a far departure from what the Stanley Parable is. Yeah. Amazon's MMO New World, that is going to come out to consoles in October 15th. So
I would like to play, but not if I've got to pay monthly for it.
No. Pal World is getting a new island and more pals. That's later this month, so that's just going to be an update for the game, which is pretty cool.
That game needs to be updated to be on more systems is what it needs.
The big thing that they announced, so they showed more Monster Hunter Wilds, but they announced that it will have crossplay on all platforms, which is cool.
Good.
That's okay. I mean, it should. This was another, what was this? I'm not going to be able to pronounce this game. Path of the Goddess.
Kunitsu.
This... I believe this is the one that's coming to Game Pass.
It is.
Okay. So they showed that. It gets its release date. It's coming out July 19th. It is on Game Pass. And then their kind of final thing here, which I laughed at, was the Phantom Blade Zero. Remember, this was the game that had the controversy last year when it was shown.
Yeah.
It didn't seem real. And then what's weird about it is they're doing a tour in different cities with a demo of this game. I don't know why you just don't put the demo out on the PlayStation Network or Xbox, whatever. But I don't know. My problem, and we've went over this last episode as well, tired of samurai games. I think there's too many at this point. We can't make Matt's Tenchu game, so
nope.
Nobody will do it.
And you can't give me this Last Ronin Turtle games if everything that comes out every year is a fucking samurai.
Yeah.
Come on.
Exactly. Exactly.
That one.
It's another one. We had one other minor showcase. I'm not gonna go through everything that was here. I'm just gonna go through kind of the bigger ones. But that was the Guerrilla Collective showcase.
Yeah.
There were just a couple bigger things that were shown here that I thought was cool, so I wanted to bring them up. Yuka Replay, which is a remaster of Yooka-Laylee. I thought that was kind of cool. Vulgar the Viking 2. Did you ever play the original Vulgar the Viking?
I did not like it.
You didn't like it? It's okay. The one that I'm most excited here, obviously we already talked about Night Dive Studios, but they're doing another first-person boomer shooter remaster. This is Killing Time from the 3DO. So it's Killing Time Resurrected. I'm really excited about that. That's a very weird, deep-cut boomer shooter from the 90s. I'm excited to look at that. And then the last thing they showed, I also thought this was really cool. There were some other minor announcements, but I thought this was cool because it's different. Is this new Five Nights at Freddy's Into the Pit? It's not like a typical Five Nights at Freddy's. It looks like a Super Nintendo game.
Oh, interesting.
It's really it looks like the best way I can describe it is think Clock Tower.
Oh, okay.
Like original Clock Tower.
Yeah.
So you're a little kid that gets stuck at the pizza place or whatever, and you're running and hiding from one of the original animatronics.
Okay.
It looks cool as hell. Not what you would expect at all from a Five Nights at Freddy's game. So completely different. So that's really cool. So that was kind of the minor announcements of that. A bunch of indie stuff.
Sky Oceans game looks kind of fun too.
That was kind of interesting too. Yeah.
Bring me back Crimson Skies is what I want though.
There you go. Well, speaking of that, we'll hop over to the big Xbox showcase. So this was the other like really big one of the big two.
One a lot of people were waiting for compared to.
A lot of people were waiting for. We'll go through it, but I will say overall, it's probably their best show in a decade.
Well, save that until we can talk about. Let's go through everything first, and then we'll talk about it.
Well, I'm going to go through it in order. A lot of stuff was shown here. Things that, and we'll go over dates and stuff. So a lot of people were going back and forth, like, what are they going to open with? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? The reality was what everybody should have expected. It was Call of Duty.
It was either going to open or close.
I mean, obviously they closed with Call of Duty as well because they had that like 25-minute presentation. But you're going to open with Call of Duty because that's a huge deal for Xbox this year. They now own Call of Duty. So I will say from the 2-minute like campaign trailer, the story looks good. As someone who has not played a Call of Duty campaign,
like the weirder aspect of it and like the alternate timeline history type stuff, and
it looks cool.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is it'll be on Game Pass, so I'll just play it there. And they did confirm. So there was a rumor floating around after the showcase that it was going to have an install of 309 gigs. They did debunk that and say, so they came out and said they will announce the install size when it gets closer to release, but it is not 309 gigabytes.
It couldn't be.
So there's no way.
That almost wouldn't fit. Like, do they have a 500 gig system? Is either one of those?
The Series S is 500.
Then it couldn't be 300 gigs because
I know. It's not possible.
Yeah.
Wow.
As we continued with some banner trailers here, Doom the Dark Ages, which was kind of leaked ahead of time that it was going to be called the Dark Ages, but that was officially announced with a just fantastic trailer. It is a prequel to 2016 Doom. I would tell you, like, as I watched it, because I had this conversation with my buddy Ross, I couldn't tell you what the story is because, like, it's going to medieval times, but it's still futuristic because he's getting shot down from a fucking spaceship. But he has a gun that crushes skulls for ammo. And it's
just medieval hell is what it is.
Yeah, is what it is. I like one thing I really liked about it. It kind of reminded me the way enemies run at you, because there's like, obviously this will only be on PS5, Series X, and PC. This isn't going to be on the old systems. So they have a lot more horsepower to work with, but there are a lot more enemies running at you, which is a little bit more for Doom. It almost reminded me of Serious Sam at times in that trailer.
I did get that feel of it too.
Same.
Like
especially
a lot of shit.
That part where like you're going down like kind of like a corridor between two rocks, and like guys were just pouring out.
They're just funneling in. Like, you have a pretty badass shield thing now. Like everything about it, you can ride it like a futuristic dragon.
Yeah, it's just
it just looks fantastic. So that is 2025. They showed, I was excited it was here, but it was a CG trailer. State of Decay 3 kind of poked its head out to remind people it still exists.
It's gonna take a while.
No date. But they did confirm that the Coalition, so the Coalition is kind of turned into a support studio, because you'll see that they showed up.
Yeah.
They show up at the end of a lot of trailers at this showcase, but they've been helping out Undead Labs. They showed off the Starfield Shattered Space expansion, which looks awesome. Spooky,
that game
weird
story, like to focus on. Like, the game has a story, but this is a very like direct experience you're gonna play in this game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it looks creepy.
It does. So, it looks weird.
It looks really weird. They showed off a Fallout 76 trailer for whatever that expansion that's coming out, and then announced, I think, early next year you'll be able to play as a ghoul.
Yeah, and the big thing about this expansion is it's the first map expansion where it's a part of the game. Because when they've added like Atlantic City and the Pit and stuff in the past, you choose to go there, so you kind of like load into a thing. This is more of the just like the open world added to the game.
Okay.
So it is a whole new area. Like, the new season just reset. I did the update. I haven't played it yet, but more quests, more stuff to do, more things to explore, more enemies.
Yeah.
Right.
And then playing as a ghoul is interesting, but that means I'd have to start a new character, so I'm not necessarily interested.
One of the coolest, like, unexpected trailers at the showcase. You were a big fan of this too, Dan. Expedition 33.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
Really cool looking RPG that had a really unique like storyline from that trailer. That looks awesome.
That was what got me first. Like, she paints the number, and everybody that age dies, and you're like, oh shit! And then it's counting down, so they're running out of time to stop her. And then I was like, okay, I can get on board with that. And then the character designs are good. The game looks really good.
The combat looks really good.
I told you is Lost Odyssey vibes.
Yeah. And I think when we heard a couple weeks ago, we heard that rumor of like 360 era JRPG fans would be looking for something at this showcase. This has to be the game they were talking about. It has to be
the main one they were talking about.
It has to be.
But I'm very interested in that game.
I will say this is one of the games that after the showcase they did say is also coming to PS5.
Yeah.
So this is not an Xbox exclusive.
Definitely one of the more exciting ones.
Yeah. They showed an extended gameplay footage of South of Midnight, which I also think looks really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still I don't know what the girl's magical powers are.
I don't know, man. All I'm saying is someone who's played Forspoken New Orleans. That's kind of the vibe I got.
That was the vibe. I will say, and I've not played Forspoken, but I did get a little bit of that vibe of it. But I think I'm willing to give it a chance because it's on Game Pass. But I think it looks cool.
The art is neat. I do like
the art is neat. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get used to the cutscenes having the stop motion feel. But then when you play the game doesn't have that. It's very clearly running at 60. So. But I thought I like this setting of it, so I'm willing to give it a chance. They had to show a World of Warcraft trailer here because they own Blizzard, even though there's no console port.
You're gonna,
I thought there's a brief moment where I thought, well, maybe this is where that finally gets announced, but no.
I don't know. At this point, I don't think it's ever gonna happen.
You don't think so?
It's too far gone at this point to just put that in there now.
New trailer for Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, which looked awesome. There was a leak date after the show of November 17th, but then they came out and said that was debunked. But I feel like it probably is this fall.
It's kind of weird this was at an Xbox show, right?
It is a little weird, yeah. I thought that too. Because I'm pretty sure when it got announced, it was at the State of Play, right?
It was definitely in a PlayStation show when it was announced.
So very weird that it was at this showcase, but I mean, it continues to look fantastic. They did put out a 10-minute behind the scenes video with David Hayter that I thought was pretty cool because I watched that as well after the showcase. One thing that I thought this showcase did really well was they didn't spend a insane amount of time on old games that have already come out. So you did get your Sea of Thieves season 13 trailer, but they didn't spend 10 minutes on it. You know what I mean? It was a 90-second trailer. Hey, season 13's coming July 25th.
Yeah, and that's more of a we just released this on PlayStation. Here's the new content for it. Kind of, it's still going, kind of a thing.
Another Game Pass game that I had forgotten about was announced for a while. It was announced a while ago, went underground, and finally showed up again here. That Flintlock game. Which I'm trying to remember back when it was originally shown, but I feel like it's gone under a major makeover.
I don't remember it looking like this, but maybe it did, and I just wasn't paying attention.
It's out July 18th, so around the corner. It's a Game Pass game, so I'll try it for sure. But it just I don't remember it looking like this a couple years ago, so kind of just had a makeover. But it looks interesting, so. It's from the makers that made that Ashen game. I thought that was a pretty decent game. So this looks cool. Age of Mythology Retold is coming out in September. That'll be on console and PC. Let's talk about the moment of this showcase. The banner of this showcase.
All right, let's preface this. We talked about it last time, and I was all but convinced it was dead.
We both were.
Right.
We were both proven wrong.
Yes. I'm happy to be proven wrong.
I'm happy to be proven wrong as well.
To be proven wrong.
Perfect Dark is real.
It's a game.
It's a game. from this trailer, it looks amazing. Highlight of the show.
Right. I'm going to temper my expectations a little bit. Just because
a little bit, yeah.
I still believe that, while I am very happy it has been revealed and they did show me like what the game is going to be like.
Yeah.
I need to see it to believe it at a certain point. It's been 20 years.
No date.
Right.
I also think that this is a 2026 game. That would make sense.
We talked about it. I said it's probably at best a year from now.
I did watch the interview with Phil Spencer after, and that was one of the questions I asked him was, why it took so long to show Perfect Dark. And the big answer, obviously, there was because at the same time they were building this game, they were also building that brand new studio. Right. So that took longer. So that's kind of the answer.
And it's definitely not a shooter like the first two are.
It has more going on.
It feels more, we talked about it, it feels almost like a Deus Ex kind of a game, which is a cool way for that game to go.
It is.
It's very clearly, I don't even want to say it's a prequel. I don't think it has anything to do with the other two games. I think this is perfect.
I think I was going to say, I think it's kind of just a soft reboot of the franchise. The story doesn't
fit with 0 or 1. So
not with what they showed.
No. So that's fine. Like if this is just we're restarting it, it's been 20 years since we got 0.
That's fine.
Like it's fine. We can start it over. I'm thrilled. I think it looks good. There's a lot of shit going around with the way she looks. I think she looks fine.
That's the other thing I'll say. So like a lot of people are coming out and bitching about how she looks and it's all has to do with the jawline. Yeah. I've seen what the actress looks like. They actually, I think today they came out and announced the actress. Mm-hmm. She's a British actress. It's fine. Yeah. She looks fine. Of the characters that we have talked about, are female characters that have been uglified. I don't think she's one of them.
No,
she looks like a normal person.
Yeah, it's not as bad as some of these other games in the past have been with like Spider-Man, and like Star Wars and
Fable,
Forspoken, where just things seem off about those characters.
Star Wars is a good example too, because we've seen what that actress looks like.
Right. I think to be fair, I still think a lot of the Star Wars one is the hair. It looks just bad.
It's bad.
But Perfect Dark, I saw that. I didn't even think 2 seconds about it when they showed her.
No, not at all. Like, I didn't think of it. I was like,
Joanna Dark.
It's Joanna Dark.
Yeah.
She got the right haircut.
Very excited. Very excited for that. They showed just a CG trailer for the Diablo expansion, Vessel of Hatred. Comes out October 8th. That's all you need to show for a Diablo.
Same day as Silent Hill 2 remake.
Well, one of those games can be better. Guess which one?
Yeah. No, and I agree. Like that right now, that's all you need to show. Like people will be excited about this. That game has picked up immensely, at least on the Xbox, with being on Game Pass. Their numbers are back up a lot higher from what I was reading. So it's pretty cool. We got a new Fable trailer. They showed more Fable. I will say from this trailer, I just made fun of at least how that chick looks, but she looked better in this trailer than last year's. I also think that this was a better trailer than last year's. So
I think it leans more into Fable is a silly game too.
Yes.
It doesn't take it
the humor is
seriously. There. Yeah, and that's an important thing for a Fable game.
That's an important thing because if it doesn't have that humor, then what is Fable?
A generic
another generic RPG.
Yeah,
exactly. It needs to have that like off British humor.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah, and that's it had
stuff. Yeah, it does.
Thought it was a fantastic trailer. It has a release window of 2025. I would say that's probably fall. That seems like your big holiday game, right?
Right.
So this was the one I missed because I think this is when I went to the bathroom because I remember I had texted you and said, man, it was nice not to have any 5v5 shooters. You're like, there was one at that. Frag Punk.
Because I was upset because it looked cool.
Until you found out it was a 5v5 shooter.
Fuck again.
Okay.
My God, man.
Yeah, nothing to say on that one. This is where we kind of dipped a little bit into indie territory. But I also say, like, this showcase, they didn't really go hard into indies.
Not in particular. There's a couple tiny ones here and there, and some of them look kind of neat.
Yeah, Winter Burrow was one of them. The one that I thought looked cool was this music one, Mixtape.
Really cool.
That fantastic music soundtrack.
The soundtrack alone is enough to be like
interesting.
Like, play the game.
I'll at least check that out. That Game Pass.
Yeah.
And then I guess not really an indie game. Well, before we get to that, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. So just an update for that. Be out in November. Square Enix is bringing Life is Strange double exposure. So they're bringing back the original character
Max.
from the first game, Max, which is cool.
Right.
So
and,
that's the only one I ever played.
I love the first one, and I just wasn't interested in 2 or the one with, the true colors. It's just,
This I would be interested in.
I might go back. Yeah.
Yeah. We got our new look at Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Still holding on to the 2024, but no like hard date.
Yeah, we were talking about it. It's like that could be a January
Of the two,
game.
yeah, I was gonna say of the 2 planned 2024 games, it wouldn't surprise me if you see this slip into January or February.
Right.
And that's fine.
Well, and this was like, it was nice to see more, but it was just a CG trailer. And,
Yeah, like I'll say,
at this
like
point, stop. Like,
Yeah.
don't show me anymore. You're just gonna ruin it if you show me more.
it just looks like it looks exactly like what you want it to be.
Yeah, it looks
For Indiana Jones.
an Indiana Jones game.
Yeah.
I'm done.
It's an Indiana Jones story,
Anything
I
else.
will say, like, Troy Baker's voice definitely goes in and out from being Troy Baker and a Harrison Ford clone, but it'll be fine.
Yeah,
Because the more I think about it, like, what would you rather? Would you rather somebody sounding the right age or paying Harrison Ford an assload of money?
I do not. I told you I
where
don't
he's
want
too
Harrison
old.
Ford,
Exactly.
but I feel like we have enough of him in movies. We could AI that shit, right? It's an Indiana Jones thing. Just feed all 5 Indiana Jones movies into a machine. He's probably said all these words before.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not put down by the Troy Baker. No, I know.
It's funny to me because I can definitely hear Troy Baker, but I think as you're playing the game, I don't think you'll care.
I think you'll lose it and just It's Indiana Jones. I think it'll be fine. They showed that Mecha Break game here again as well. So again, as I said before, there are too many fucking samurai games at this point. We announced another Souls-like action RPG samurai type game. This one had more of a horror element to it, but Wu Chain Fallen Feathers. Again, not that I don't think it looks cool. I just there are too many samurai games at this point. I think it's an overplayed.
All sorts.
Yeah. Avowed is the other big 2024 game. It did leak after the showcase that most likely this will be out November 12th. That date makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a fall. They did also put out a behind the scenes video, like 30 minutes with a lot of footage of this game. It looks fantastic.
You had a great way
it
to
is
describe it.
Yeah, the best way I can describe Avowed is it is like the outer worlds was like Fallout / I guess you could say Starfield.
It was basically
yeah. And this is very much like Oblivion. Their version of Oblivion.
Right.
It looks great.
It does.
It really looks good. They've refined the combat. Combat looks much better this time around than it did last year.
No, if you combine what I saw here plus the stuff from that special thing they did a couple months ago, where they talked about the NPCs and all that other this game just seems
better.
Good. It just seems like what I would want out of that style of a game.
It seems more polished than what we saw at the beginning of the year too.
I think what's nice, and why your analogy is good, because if Outer Worlds was New Vegas, but the thing about it is about Outer Worlds compared to that is it's focused. It's not as wide open. It's not as
and they've said that this won't be
kind of a thing.
It will be open world, but it's not going to be as open as a Skyrim or an Oblivion.
It's nice to have a game that is similar to those games, but is condensed into a more driven experience. Like Outer Worlds, I always felt like I was playing through a story. In Vegas, it's like, hey, this guy shot you and you woke up. Here, play the game. I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, and Obsidian is known for their storytelling and writing, and that obviously translated really well in Outer Wilds or Outer Worlds. I always get those two confused. But I think that's going to be the same case here with Avowed. The one thing that's easy to forget, though, is this game does take place in the universe of that. I keep wanting to say Pathfinder, and I know that's wrong. You know what I'm talking about. There's two of them. Not Path of Exile. It's the same. It's a Diablo type game. Baldur's Gate type. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. I don't remember the name.
There's two. Pillars of Eternity.
That's it.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
It looks awesome. I cannot. That's probably one of my more anticipated games of this year.
Yes.
So I look forward to it. I hope that the November 12th date is real. I was actually hoping a little sooner, but
to me, as someone who doesn't have an Xbox, that is a reason to get one.
Yeah. No, I can agree with that. After they showed that, they kicked over to Rebellion, makers of the Sniper Elite series. They have a new game that it just looked weird. They didn't show much of what it is. Atomfall. It kept switching
Fallout?
around like time periods, right?
It's like British Fallout is what.
Yeah, kind of. Which
it looks good. It looks
like as someone who did not like Sniper Elite 5, I thought it was a giant step back for that franchise. I'm glad they're not just making Sniper Elite 6.
Right.
That they're trying something different. Yeah.
Cashing in the Fallout hype one.
Yeah. They showed a brief trailer for Assassin's Creed Shadows here. I mean, I've said before I'm not interested just because I'm tired of samurai
I will
stuff.
say that, Matt, this is probably the closest you're going to get to a Tenchu game. Because the girl character is definitely like stealth and knives and like throwing weapons and stuff.
I'll be honest, when the trailer first started playing, I legitimately had forgotten that game has two characters.
Yes, me too.
And I thought for a brief moment, I'm like, are they finally making Matt's fucking Tenchu game with this woman?
I think that's what
and then that dude came bumbling in. I was like, oh no, it's.
I knew that wasn't what it was, but it definitely gave me vibes.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
So I think this is as close as you're going to get.
I mean, we remake everything. Why can't we just remake that? Like, just give it to me, man.
I think we looked it up, and the rights are held by somebody who just doesn't give a damn anymore, didn't we? I forget what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. Still shitty.
Another game I don't think people should sleep on. I think we're forgetting that it's coming out, but it's September 5th. Stalker 2 is coming out. I think it looks fantastic. Remember, this game got delayed because of the war going on in Ukraine. So obviously they had that. That's a very extenuating circumstance. That's why that game's been delayed for a while. But I think it's shaping up to be really good, and that's another good Game Pass get. And one I don't think people should sleep on. I think it looks good.
I think a lot of people will play that, especially it's Game Pass.
Because it's on Game Pass,
it's going to get played a lot.
I never played the original.
I never did either.
And at this point...
Well, that was all PC stuff.
So they did put out a remaster recently on both consoles that you can get.
Yeah, I saw that, but I think there was something weird about it was too expensive for what it was. So people...
It's $60, which it should probably be less than that. And then before we got our one last thing, this is probably the one like really dumb part of the showcase, at least I thought.
And I laughed about it because last time somebody asked us, I remember emailed in and said, "Do you think there'll be new consoles?" And we were like, "No way." And
so
we're wrong at the same time.
There was hardware announcement. It's not the hardware, it's not the handheld that people want them to announce. It's not
refresh.
No, it is. You're getting a white all digital Series X, 1 terabyte. You're getting a black Series S. I believe that's 1 terabyte as well.
There's a white S, a white X.
Oh, that's right.
And then
my personal favorite, the Galaxy Edition Series X, which is black with white specs on it. But it does have green. Like, the one thing I thought was cool is the controller, because it's a black controller, but the back of it is green.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cool color profile. But that has a 2 terabyte SSD. It is $600.
Here's the problem. I don't understand the pricing on this, because a 2 terabyte disc version X is $600. A 1 terabyte digital version X is $450.
I don't get it either, because you cannot sit here and tell me that. I guess the way they're doing it would be the drive probably costs $50 to them.
Why
and then
not,
it's $100 for the SSD.
But why not make the 2 terabyte version not have a disk drive?
I think that's the mistake here. That's the big mistake here. Is that
buy, because I've talked to you about this, and when I buy an Xbox, I don't think I'm buying physical games for it ever again.
No, at this point, it's a Game Pass system.
Exist. So if it's a Game Pass unit, I would want the space, but I don't need the drive. You're telling me you couldn't give me a 2 terabyte black Series X digital for $500? You could have.
Yeah.
Well, also that gets to my point where, so before this showcase started, all of a sudden, all these retailers were like, hey, the Series X is $400 today. And I thought, because this is before the showcase era, is like, maybe we're finally doing it. It's been 4 years. It is time. In my opinion, it's time. It's time to drop the prices of these fucking systems. It's been 4 years. But no, it was a special deal for one day. Because if you came out and you said, okay, the Series X is $400, you drop everything $100. Realistically, that's what you do. And you put out a 2 terabyte system at $500, that's fine. But that thing is $600. The other
thing is, do you want to be caught buying that system when there's a chance they could announce a Pro at the drop of a hat? They could in October or November, they could just say Pro console comes out.
We still have Gamescom in August.
There's a world where that could happen because we know that they're working on a system because that leaked last year. There's no way I'm spending $600 on something that might get replaced in 6 months.
But I also, again, I think it is a disservice. If you're going to make an all digital Series X, that's fine. It needs to have a bigger hard drive.
Right. That's why they should be flipped. You want to make
they do this every time with these digital systems. Like the digital system should have more storage every single time.
Also, how is a digital X the same size as an X with a drive in it?
Right? Like, remember the leaked documents where they showed like a redesign where it was like more like a cylinder? Yeah.
Like, where that's supposed to be?
I don't know what they're doing, but
put another heatsink in it. Do that.
Final announcement of this show. An awesome announcement. And what I loved about it was that while it was something that you expected, it wasn't what you expected at the same time.
You and I would constantly say a COG comes up and they put a 6 in it.
So I thought either one of two things. It was going to be a Gears 6 teaser, not really show anything, or an announcement of a Gears remaster trilogy.
I don't think that would have been that. When it came up at the end, I didn't think that was it because I didn't think that was enough to close a show.
No, and that's what I thought they would do in that case is announce a Gears collection, and then after that's announced, oh, and by the way, coming later, and then show like the little 6 with the cock.
Yeah.
But we're not getting either. We're getting Gears of War E-Day, which is set 14 years before the events of it's year 0. There's a book you can buy a book. I actually have the book somewhere for Emergence Day. So I'm super excited about this though, because you get to go back, you get to play with Marcus and Dom again. Dom's there. They played the notes of Mad World.
Yes,
was enough to pull you back in and be like, oh, like that was a huge fucking moment, when that trailer hit. And because that was the first thing I noticed when Marcus gets pushed to the floor, like, oh no, he's younger.
Yeah.
Oh, he's really young. Like he's like fucking baby faced here. That's why I was like,
basically.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a smart decision, but the other reason why I think it's a smart decision is because I can almost guarantee you this will be on PlayStation, because this is how you get PlayStation audiences that have not played Gears of War into Gears of War. Hey, here are these great characters that you may have heard about. This is their first story. So, but I'm super excited about that. The other thing that came out today, and I'll say it now, I think I have it down a little bit later, but Tom Warren, one of the many people that has their ear to the ground for rumors and stuff, has actually heard that game might come out earlier than expected. As in before Fable.
I could see that.
So that game might be a lot further along than we think.
I could see that.
But again, you have to it's been 2019 was Gears 5.
And they're different games with a different scope, especially since this one is ditching open world. It's going to be Gears 1 style of gameplay. It's meant to be more horror type stuff, which is good. That's what the game needs.
It does. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I could see a world where this game comes out sooner for sure than Fable. That's a different
yeah, and then they had their Call of Duty presentation. I didn't watch the Call of Duty presentation, but again, overall, I think, I thought it was a fantastic showcase. We got 2 emails I'm going to read, and we can go on about it a little bit more, but let me go ahead and get through those first. So first email we got comes from Peter from Cincinnati, Ohio. Hey dudes, wow, what a showcase. After that bad PlayStation State of Play and the Summer Games Fest being a dud, my expectations were at an all-time low, and that has to be the best Xbox showcase they've ever had. Fable, Perfect Dark, Gears of War E-Day, Avowed, Indiana Jones, South of Midnight, Doom the Dark Ages, hell, even Call of Duty. It was just banner after banner after banner. They've really got a great roadmap lined up. So I guess they were just down, not out. It's a good Gears reference.
Sure.
Then the other email we got is from Tyler from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Howdy, 572 Grood. Is it just me, or am I the only one that's still feeling jaded after the Xbox conference? Yes, they brought the games, and yes, the games sure do look good, but this is now the third E3 in a row where they've had a pretty great showcase, with this one probably being the best. You have very few 2024 dates, and everything else seems to be either 2025 or not dated at all. It just seems like it's more par for the course for Xbox. I just find it incredibly hard to get excited for them when they time and time again don't deliver these games in a timely manner, and then when we end up getting a huge disappointment like Hellblade 2, 7 years and it's a five-ish hour cinematic experience. Ridiculous. What do you all think?
So,
you go ahead first.
So I specifically wanted you to read these after we talked about was at the show
because they're two contrasting opinions,
opposite viewpoints. And
yeah,
Matt, I'm not 100% sure where you land on it, but I think Kyle, you and I land on the opposite sides of it. I think you're coming out of it, you're more excited about it. Like
I'm excited about the games that were announced, right, but I still, at the same time, right, I have to temper some expectations, right, because you look at certain things and you go, okay, is Fable really going to hit in fall 2025, or is that going to just become spring 2026?
So we mentioned this last time when we were kind of doing predictions, and I told you, and this is why I agree with the second email more. Great. Like, yes, it was amazing. Perfect Dark's a real game. The Gears thing is cool. It's a great idea. Avowed looks great. Fable, all the stuff. I don't fucking care. They do this every time.
Yeah.
And then stuff either doesn't come out, or it's delayed, or it fucking sucks. And this happens every single time.
Yeah.
This is probably the best show in recent memory. I'm sure I could probably go back 5 or 6 years and find one that was slightly better or just more exciting. But they have such a horrible track record.
I was going to say the Keanu Reeves one is the one I think of.
Yeah, and that was a
pretty good one. But it's like 2018, I think.
Look at last year. What came out? Nothing. Redfall. Starfield.
Redfall,
yeah.
Starfield, yeah.
But this is very you have me excited. Like it's that meme from Django Unchained, you have my attention or whatever.
Yeah.
But
you have my curiosity, now you have my attention.
Until this stuff comes out, I don't care. Yeah. I just really don't. Indiana Jones, no date. Probably next year. Okay. I think we even said last time where if you're going to show me games that exist from between now and the next show, I'm okay with it. But if you're starting to show me stuff that is beyond that or 26 or 20, then I just really could care less.
The one exception I'll give for it is Perfect Dark, simply because I just wanted to see that it was a real game.
And that may
now that I know that, take your time with it.
That might be the kind of thing where they had to do something, because lately the buzz on it was, well, we showed 2020, we showed her in front of a pyramid. That doesn't even look like it's fucking.
I 100% think that's the reason why it was shown here, is because they've taken so many L's recently, right? Like I told you, what was the analogy I used? They've stepped on so many fucking rakes this year that I think somebody smartly somewhere was like, we need to just show Perfect Dark.
Any goodwill they had before this show was gone. I think Microsoft approval rating amongst most video game people is probably the lowest it's been in a while. And it's funny
for sure.
And buying Activision is a reason people hate them now. It's because they feel like it's going to ruin a lot of stuff, even though we both know, and I think a lot of people realize, it's not really going to change almost anything. All of that stuff.
You're going to get some games on Game Pass. That's
right. And some of it's going to be on Game Pass. But yeah, I love it, but I don't want to get hurt again and again and again and again and again.
No, I understand.
And so I guess for me, I'm in the middle.
Okay, perfect.
While I enjoyed looking at everything that came out, and all of it looks pretty good. I mean, all of it looks great. I'm in the middle because how many of these games are actually going to release, number one, in the time frame that they said they're going to, and then number two, how many are going to release actually like worth it?
Right.
That's the biggest pet peeve right now, and that's one of the reasons why I think I told you, Kyle, or maybe I haven't. I'm hesitant to move towards the next generation of gaming. Like I'm still playing on the Xbox One and my PS4 because everything releases with a patch. Everything releases where issues or errors. And every single game, like every big thing, like could happen. Like you save issues, and it's just like, yeah, great. I'm glad you got it. I'm glad these games are coming out. But then, like, I'm sick of paying $60 to get $70 to get a game that just doesn't work. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why these showcases are cool. Yeah, I love seeing some of the games that come out, but realistically, nothing is like speaking to me that I absolutely right now need to move to this generation of gaming, because I'm just so hesitant that are any of these games going to release complete? Or are they all going to have problems?
The other thing of it too is like, I don't have an Xbox. This didn't make me go buy one because I know better.
Well, and that's the thing that I think maybe was a little bit of a failure here is like, okay, sure, this is the Xbox showcase, but we know now how successful putting some of these Xbox games out on the PlayStation have been. I mean, I have it down later here. I mean, I'll bring it up now, but Sea of Thieves was the #1 selling game last month for PlayStation. Number one on the charts, sold a shit ton of copies. So that kind of proven track record with those 4 games they chose, they're not going to stop putting these games out on PlayStation or Nintendo. They're going to put their games wherever they want. So this showcase, well, it showed a lot of games. It didn't show people. It didn't show someone like Dan, who doesn't own an Xbox Series X, a reason to go out and purchase one.
When do I need to buy it?
And I don't. And I also don't think it did a good job of showcasing people that already own one. Hey, like they didn't put a line in the sand or anything. It just was, here's all these games. That's great. We still don't know what ones are going to be exclusive, what ones are going to go over to PlayStation. We don't know that. Like, obviously, I mean, you and I both agree, Dan, like Indiana Jones will be on both systems
at some point.
Not day one, but Indiana Jones will come to PS5.
I think Indiana Jones, since it's a Game Pass game, they're going to see how it does on Game Pass. Eventually, people are going to stop playing it after like 2 months. It won't sell any more copies. And 4 months later, it's on PlayStation in 2 months.
It's not going to sell copies on the Xbox either. It's going to sell Game Pass.
That's the other problem with this is like Avowed is a game I really want to play. I'm not buying an Xbox just for Avowed. Indiana Jones is a great game I really want to play.
Avowed, I think, will come to PlayStation.
Perfect Dark. Well. I'm not waiting for that. Perfect Dark. I think Perfect Dark probably won't. I think that's one that
I don't think so either. I think Perfect Dark will stay. Like I said, I can easily make the argument for Gears E-Day because of what it is, but I could also see a world in which we're going to keep Gears on the Xbox.
I think you could make an argument for most games. I think you and I both agree that putting something like Halo Master Chief on PlayStation would be one of the smartest things they could ever do.
Well, I don't think did I put the Halo thing in the news or no? Because otherwise I'll bring it up right now. So I did not. Okay. So this was not at the showcase, but it is heavily rumored that the decision they've made as far as Halo goes is supposedly they are remaking Combat Evolved.
Fine.
Again.
Okay.
Not like a straight up remake, not just like a remaster where you can click, the back button to switch graphics. That tells me like, yeah, you're probably prepping that to put it out on PlayStation. But is that really the right move at the same time when you already have this collection of all these games? All the work's already done.
Yes.
And if you put that out tomorrow on the PlayStation Network, like you don't even have to make a big deal about it and pick a date. You could literally put out an Xbox Wire blog post and be like, hey, Master Chief Collection is out on PlayStation tomorrow. It would dominate the sale for the next 3 months.
So insane.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Everybody would buy that. And I think that I think that's a better choice than spending the money, the time, and the resources to remake that game again. And then also at the same time, the other thing is like the way I look at it, and I'm more pessimistic on it when it comes to remaking the game, but what's not going to stop some dumb exec at Microsoft from going, well, since we're remaking it, we got this TV show. why don't we just stick some elements from the TV show? Because it'll drive people to the show.
Right.
And then that conversation becomes, well, Steve Downs, he's getting kind of up there in age. What if we just got the fucking dude from the TV show to play Master Chief?
Right.
Then what does it become? So I don't know. And like that brings up then the question for me, which is, what do you do with Halo? And I've said before on the show, and I'll continue to say, if it was my decision, I would just reboot it. Start over. Nuke it. You can still have Master Chief. You can still have Cortana, but just nuke it and start it over. Here's the Master Chief. Here's his story. And you don't have to go all the way back to do Reach or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just tell a new story with him. But at this point, because the story has already gotten so convoluted anyways, because they tried in the last one, which I still think Infinite's a very good game, but they kind of tried to just ignore the events of Halo 5 and just move on to something else. But then like at the end of Halo Infinite, there's kind of like elements of maybe there was some time travel and stuff that happened. So much. It's a little too much. Yeah. But I don't know. So it was also interesting not to have anything Halo related at this showcase at all. Yeah. I thought maybe there'd be another team that would come and be like, hey, we're making this side Halo project. Because again, that's the other weird thing to me. You're Microsoft. You have more studios than you know what to do with at this point, right?
Well,
more than you close some, but you have more studios than you know what to do. Why not at this point? You have 343, which are the shepherds of Halo, but they've failed time and time again with Halo over and over again. Yet they keep letting them make more Halo games. Why not take Halo as a franchise and go to a different studio? What if you took Halo and you went over to id? Hey, make us something with the Halo franchise.
You could, but their hands are full right now. They've got, they've got plenty of other stuff that they
got Doom,
but it's.
But I'm saying you have so many other studios. Like you can't tell me there's not a studio that could pitch some interesting idea.
How many fucking Call of Duty studios you have now?
Yeah. You have 12, so many Call of Duty support 20? Studios, right?
Get Raven to do something. Pull them off of Call of Duty and have them do it.
Raven would be a good choice. I agree there. So, but that's another part of it, and that gets into a different conversation. But that to go back onto it with this showcase, that's something I don't think they did a good job of. Like they were never going to get up on stage and say that a specific game is coming to PlayStation at their own showcase. No. That's not going to happen.
No.
They'll never do that. No. But they didn't do anything to reassure Xbox fans that like they still have faith in any kind of exclusivity.
I don't need to go buy one today, and that's the biggest problem.
Not at all.
And then to announce, 3 new of this current console at the end.
Mistake.
And not have a price drop.
To announce a new S. Stop talking. Like the S is irrelevant.
I wish the S was over.
Yes.
I do.
Yeah.
Or just come out and realize like, hey, these games do work on the S, but they're not going to be as good.
Yeah.
Instead of having to have this absurd parity for that system.
Bullshit.
So that's something I really hope when we get to the next generation, they don't do that again.
Yeah.
I don't mind if you have, like, obviously it's probably going to be all digital, but let's say for sake of argument, it doesn't go that way. And there are disc versions, then do what PlayStation did. Here's a disc version. Here's a non-disc version. They're both the same system otherwise. Right. Do that.
Yeah.
So, but again, like, yeah, I'm of us three, I'm probably the most like happy about that showcase, most positive, but
I'm just very cautious.
I still have I still have reservations on certain things.
Need to be still proven that all of these games are good.
I will say, like, 2024 is not a barren wasteland like it has been for the past couple of years.
No.
There are games, as long as they stick.
Yes.
As long as Avowed sticks, as long as this Flintlock game, as long as Stalker 2, if those games do come out and hit their dates, it's more games than we've had in the last couple of years in 1 year.
Yep.
But are you also going to really sit here and tell me all of these other games are going to come out in 2025?
No. Perfect Dark, definitely.
There will be things. Yeah. Well, Perfect Dark, no, but that didn't have a date. But like all these other ones, do you think they're all really going to hit in 2025? I don't think so.
Probably not.
Nope.
So, but as it stands with all the showcases this year, this was the best one.
By far. It wasn't even close.
Like there was no kind, like the state of play Astrobot does look amazing. Right. But everything else that was whatever. The Summer Games Fest, a couple cool announcements, but too long.
Not enough.
So this now again, we don't know what's happening with Nintendo still. I thought before we recorded today, we would at least be able to say, hey, the showcase is next week,
Tuesday or something. Yeah.
So I feel like it's Monday. They're going to announce that it's. I think I keep hearing the 19th, which is Wednesday. I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably real.
Yeah, it seems real.
And that makes sense too. Like at this point, Nintendo can do whatever they want.
Oh, they.
But I feel like they like at this point they want everybody else to do their thing, and then they'll do their own thing. So, but yeah, that was the Xbox showcase. I think that was the best of the showcases. We got some other various like cleanup news here. I thought this. So I've obviously been talking about, like, I've been kind of going through different games. Like I tried Lords of the Fallen and stuff, wanting to play a Souls-like game because I have that itch, which reality is I should just go back and play more fucking Elden Ring is what I should do. Part of it is I was like, man, I'd really like to get Elden Ring on Steam and play it on my PC, but it's never cheap enough. Like I'm not going to pay $55 for a game that's been out for 2 years.
I think the lowest I've seen it is like $49.99.
Not cheap enough. It needs to be like
still not cheap enough.
30, like 30 would be the highest that I'd be like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Maybe, but obviously I know it's not going to go that cheap right now because that DLC's out next week. But the bummer of it is that there's two bummers for this DLC. Number one, it has no achievements or trophies, which is really bizarre choice. Number two, the game, in order to start this DLC, you have to defeat a secret optional boss that when they looked at the percentage, I think it's like only 20% of all people that have played Elden Ring have defeated this boss. And this game just reached the 25 million copies sold mark. So a lot of people have played Elden Ring. So
that's crazy.
It is crazy to lock that DLC behind a secret optional boss that only 20% of people have fought, and then to not have any achievements or trophies. So
that's the worst part.
Beyond crazy.
It's really weird.
I hate when games are like huge DLC, $30, $40.
They did the same thing with the original trophies. Dark Souls, which is why I never played the DLC for the original Dark Souls. You're going to fight multiple
bosses in this DLC. There can't be a trophy for each one of them. That's it?
No. Now that I look at this, one game that we completely skipped over that was shown at the Xbox conference briefly, and then they had a deeper dive at their own showcase. Dragon Age Veilguard.
Oh, I thought you skipped it because you were just going to talk about it now.
No, I don't think it was in the article I was looking at, honestly. Oh. But anyways, we can talk about it now. Dragon Age Veilguard. So we haven't had a new Dragon Age since 2014. I have watched the gameplay of it as well now because it's important. It is important to note at the Xbox showcase there was no gameplay. It was just a CG trailer,
right?
Which that had a disastrous trailer
because it wasn't good.
Super ratioed online, super disliked. And again, we talked about it earlier in this episode. It has that Fortnite art style.
And it also does the Borderlands thing where it's like the hunter, the ranger, the whatever.
Yeah,
like, this is just
I don't
dumb.
think it fits. No,
trying to make some kind of dumb hype trailer for Dragon Age.
Yeah, weird. They did put out gameplay. It's not. It's just an action RPG now.
Yeah, it's if anything, it's Dragon Age 2.
Yeah, it's not. Let's just say if you're a Baldur's Gate fan, you just play Baldur's Gate 3.
It's strange because I think Dragon Age 1 was a good game because it was a CRPG like that where moving units on a field and all that kind of stuff. And 2 got away from it, and then Inquisition kind of pulled it back because I think
Inquisition had both.
I think they felt like people didn't want that kind of game anymore. And then, Baldur's Gate 3 is like the game of the year.
How far in development do you think they were at that point when Baldur's Gate 3 became the massive success it was? And it's like, well, we can't do anything about that now.
I mean, they were probably pretty far along. I mean, this game's been, in some form.
It has been rebooted at least twice that we know of.
But man, I just, in a world where Baldur's Gate exists and that world exists, I don't think Dragon Age is going to come close to it, even though it is a different game. I don't know. It's just, I'm not interested in it at all.
No, like I mean, I went into it being like, yeah, like I would be interested in a new Dragon Age. Seeing that initial trailer, be like, hell no, and then watching the gameplay and still just being like, I don't know. There are so many. The problem now too is there are so many RPGs and so many different types within that genre to play.
Yeah,
you have like an overload of choice. Well, that it doesn't really like, okay, so Dragon Age Veilguard doesn't interest me. There's 20 other RPGs I could go play.
Well,
right
and
now.
the other strange thing is we're also back in a time where turn-based games are in again.
Yeah.
And
in a very big way.
And CRPGs are in again, and tactical RPGs are in again.
Yeah.
And you decide to just be a generic hack and slash game.
Yeah.
You don't stand out from all of the others.
Yeah, so it came off as disappointing, but I will say I just want the game to come out so they work on Mass Effect.
Okay, so what if 100 Dragon Agers drop off of a bus, right?
There you go.
That's just what it looks like. When do they release the Battle Royale Dragon Age DLC? And you'll just
March of next year.
Character, and you run around.
When do they have a crossover with Fortnite?
Oh God, what's the current one? I forget. Something dumb, right?
Metallica.
No, what was the one before it then?
There's so many.
I know there was something really dumb. Either the last one or
the Metallica one made me laugh because when I saw the picture of James Hetfield, he just looks like he did in fucking Guitar Hero Metallica.
Well, that's
no work was done. It was just like, we got the character model, throw it in.
Well, that's why they're in Fortnite. It's just all the stupid music shit that's in there now.
Yeah, I saw I have not paid attention to Fortnite in probably like 4 or 5 years. I saw a recent match of it. And like, my God, that game has changed in 4 or 5 years.
It's weird.
So, it's cool. I don't dislike it. I'm not ever going to sit down and play it.
No.
So I'm far beyond that, but I think it's cool. So that they keep updating that stuff.
And it somehow became this.
Hey, whatever. It was the game that broke down the barriers to get us crossplay.
It's true.
So I will always give it credit for that.
That's true.
Now I should probably, I'll open the article to double check it, but this PS5 firmware, is that out now that adds the Discord, or is that's coming?
I think it happened because I want to say my system told me yesterday it opened or it updated. Okay.
So the big thing with this PS5 firmware is that now, like the Xbox has done for a year, which is really weird because this was originally announced as a collaboration with PlayStation. You can now, it has full Discord integration, so you do not have to do the weird like open the phone app and then transfer the chat, which is cool. So, which has been one thing that's been really nice on the Xbox, because I have one friend who only uses Discord for everything. So when I go on if I'm playing a game on the Xbox, I can just hit a button and be in that chat.
Right.
Whereas on the PlayStation, got to do that transfer thing. So I'm glad now both systems have parity with that. So that's pretty cool. Did you put this in here?
I did.
This next article. I want you to explain this one better than I can.
Do you know who this Midori person is?
I did not follow much of this. I just saw some memes.
So this was someone online who was leaking Sega and Atlas stuff, and it turned out a lot of the stuff turned out to be true, and it became this like Twitter account where everybody was following, and it ended up like it was like a Japanese girl or something. Okay. And she talked about like she had a boyfriend, and like you know how social media is. People are insane, so people thought they were like in love with her, not knowing who she is. Well, people on the internet will dig as they tend to do, and it turns out it's just a white guy, like just pretending to be someone who had all this stuff. And it turns out all that happened was they saw an internal presentation from Sega months ago and rode that to fame. And then the rest of it became them using this persona to get information from other people.
Fantastic.
But it's just one of those things where it's just like, sure, it just blew up because it turns out I'm a regular white dude. It's like, Jesus. And then he started to defend himself with like, well, I never really pretended to be a Japanese girl. It's like, I'm sure if I went looking, I could probably find some stuff that did.
Probably did.
But I just thought it was funny because this person's like, I'm retired now. I'm done. Okay.
I put this next one in here for you because the person that is reporting on this is Jason Schreier.
That's
so there might be some validity to it. Final Fantasy Tactics might actually be remastered too.
That's great.
Coming sooner than you think as well.
That's the one that needed to be done.
So I believe this more than Final. Like we see, like every month there's like Final Fantasy 9. Like I believe this more of the two.
Yeah, I would say so. I still think the 9 thing is probably real, but again, that's not one that they would ever start until 7 is done.
Do you think that a remake of 9 would be at the same level?
No.
As 7? No, you don't think that's
I
at
think it
that
would
level?
be made to look very good, and it would probably have voice acting, and it would clean up some stuff in that game that's a little weird and kind of broken.
Yeah, because there was no voice acting until 10.
No, there was no voice acting in that game. So I think you'd voice act the game, just because it would kind of have to be if you're going to update it for 2024.
Okay.
The tactics one I do think is more real because since that doesn't exist within like the main line, it can be released whenever you want it to come out. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
And for that game, I don't even necessarily like. Obviously, that won't be a remake. It would be a remaster. It would look like, I think, they could easily do it in like Octopath style, where it looks kind of like that. I think that would be kind of cool way to take it.
I was thinking more of like that. I keep wanting to say Unicorn Overlord, or Overlord, but not that one. The one that came out last year. The name started with it. Yeah, Diofield.
Yeah, it could look like that too.
That's what I'm thinking.
It does. I don't want that one to look real because it's still going to be a grid-based like tactical game.
Yeah,
but I think either of those art styles would work really well for
art style is what I'm more leaning on there. So
that's very cool. That game needs to be updated more so than 9.
I feel like that could be a later, like, I mean, that would have been a real banger of a PlayStation State of Play announcement.
That would have been a huge one. They closed with that and they're like
that would have made up for that one.
Yeah, January. Excellent.
There you go.
But now that we're getting this, I just need a Final Fantasy Tactics Advance remake, please.
There you go. Lollipop Chainsaw Repop.
Sure.
Any interest? Did you play the original?
A little bit. I think I own it, but
I own it. I played it on 360 when it came out.
It was kind of.
It was fine.
It's of its time.
Of its time. It was fine. The thing is, I watched the trailer for this. Like, I don't think it looks that much better visually.
It doesn't. It looks
for
like
all the work that they've supposedly put into it.
Well, remember, they were gonna put in a lot of work, and then they decided they weren't gonna put in.
You're right. You're right.
So it's more of I guess this is a 2024 release of this game.
It's more. Yeah, that's what I would agree with. It's out September 25th. And then final news thing I threw in here. They announced that they are going to make a new Shovel Knight, which they very heavily teased would be 3D.
Yeah,
so
I mean, Shovel Knight's an awesome series.
I'm amazed that we haven't got a Shovel Knight 2. It's been 10 years.
Especially when you consider like how much Shovel Knight
popular it was.
Well, there's a lot of weird Shovel Knight content and spin-offs and all that kind of stuff too. So it's a little weird, but it's the kind of thing where they just release that at their own pace. And it's fine.
Agreed. Now, before we get to movie stuff, I'm gonna go. We'll just call this section Dan's rant corner.
It's not even.
I'm gonna let you bring this up, but it is a GameStop.
Just a GameStop topic. So I got my email about it because, we talked about it before. Like college football's coming. I'm excited for college football because it's the first one in 11 years, and so I got an email from GameStop saying, hey, we've got this like special package. And I'm like, okay, so let's click on it and see what it is. So for this special package, you get a football that says college football 25 on it, a stupid jersey with the number 25 on it, and like a little locker to put the thing in. And depending on which version you buy, either a physical copy of the game or digital currency for one of the systems. And I told you originally I was very confused because the only one that showed up when I clicked like the link in my email was a $75 PlayStation code and then this like locker football stuff. And that didn't make any, and I told you it didn't make any sense to me because I get that the code for the currency is meant for me to buy the game with it. But depending on where you live, $75 is not enough to buy the game. Because if you live in a certain area where your taxes are a certain amount, it's not enough. So you'd still be paying extra. However, since then, or maybe they always did exist and they just didn't see them, there are currently 2, 4, 6, 8 listings for this fucking thing because it's all different combinations of stuff.
That's wild.
So there's the one I was talking about where you get the football and the $75 code. But here's one with a physical copy of the game and the football. But then here's one with $150 in PlayStation currency because maybe you want the deluxe edition of the game, or maybe you want the version of the game that is Madden and the college football. But if you want that, do you want one that's just a college football branded package with the copy of Madden? Like this none of this makes any fucking sense. There's so many versions of it.
It seems like this is something that GameStop created themselves.
It has to be, because
it doesn't seem like something that was sanctioned by EA.
Confusing as hell.
Because if it was sanctioned by EA, like if it was a quote unquote official collector's edition from EA, it would just have a code for the game.
Right. And since GameStop can't sell codes for games anymore, that's over. It's all just currency. They have to go through this thing where, well, here's a $75 pack, a $150 pack, a $100 pack, or a $230 pack. But again, depending on where you live and what version you want to buy, that might not be enough currency to cover it.
Yeah.
So I just like, it's a mess. And
that's a shit show.
It's confusing because originally when you clicked on the one where it actually comes with the physical copy of the game, it didn't outright say that it did. It just said it came with the game. But in what version? Like, is it a code? I can't tell. So now it literally underneath the picture says bundle includes this football pack thing, which is basically you're paying $80 for a football, a locker, and a jersey with the number 25 on it. Wow. And then the funniest part is it shows, if you go look at like what comes in it, it shows the jersey framed in this like black frame. And then of course at the bottom you have to go, the frame isn't included. Then why show a picture of it in frame?
That's so stupid.
What are you doing? Like this was somebody's genius idea of like, college football's back. How can we market it? Well, we can give them
guaranteed.
We can give them this.
Oh,
guaranteed.
Well, how do we fuck it up and just make it confusing? Well, we can make all these packages, right?
Well,
it's just a mess. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy a copy of the game.
There you go.
And buy physical. I want it to sit on my shelf because it's back. But
that's the best decision you can make in that case.
Fuck, dude. GameStop.
It's
just every day. It's just something else that's fucking dumb.
Yeah. Well, we can kick over to movies. I was able to watch some stuff. I will say, my girlfriend and I were planning to go see Inside Out 2 last night, and then we had kind of a emergency-ish situation come up, so we ended up refunding those tickets. We're gonna go next Thursday.
I'm going.
So I've not seen that yet. Yeah, you're going on Sunday. So we'll be able to talk about that next week, or next time I record. But some of the stuff I watched, I got around to watching Monkey Man with Dave Patel.
Good shit.
Which it's a good movie. It's another, in the John Wick vein. My issue with this one is it's too long. It's 2 hours. It should have been in a perfect world, in an alternate reality, a 90-minute tight cut of this movie would have been fantastic, because I do think they spent a little too much time setting up like the lore of things, and it goes from like some like amazing action to like kind of a low point of that movie of just a lot of setup for stuff, but it has a terrific and like super violent ending. That's really good. Very, very violent, very bloody.
Yeah, it was very good.
Not bad. Like, I enjoyed it, but I just in a perfect world could have cut some of that. I did also that weekend, because that was the weekend my girlfriend was away. I did finally get around to watching The Iron Claw, which is a fantastic movie, but I will warn you, super depressing and soul crushing if you do not know that story of the Von Elric family from wrestling. If you don't know, like, I knew a little bit of it. I did not know how drastic it gets. There is a very, like, Paul Walker Paul Walker Furious 7 moment in that movie, like that level of like, oh shit, this is really, really rough. Yeah. But fantastic movie performance. Like, Zac Efron really, really put in the work for that movie. And like, I've The only thing I've ever really seen for him was bits and pieces of High School Musical back in the day, and then Neighbors.
You watch Baywatch?
So,
Come on.
I didn't. I actually never saw the Baywatch movie.
I watched Baywatch
With The Rock. Is that good or no?
It's a movie.
It's a movie. Okay. This was fantastic. I will also, because I told Matt, like, there are, like, I never caught the MJF has a cameo as somebody in it, but I never caught that, so he must have been super made up.
I thought that got cut from that. Maybe. I thought it was, but I think I remember when it got cut.
Maybe it got cut. Okay, then maybe that's why I never saw him. But I will say, the guy, whoever the actor is that they picked to play Ric Flair, he's not in the movie very much, but his couple scenes, he's got Ric Flair nailed.
Okay.
Pretty good, but strong, like 9 out of 10. It's a great movie. It's a great movie. Highly recommended. And then I will rant on this. I've been waiting for it to come out because I had to know. The Strangers Chapter 1. So I love the 2008 Strangers. It's one of my favorite horror movies of that decade. And there was a sequel in 2018, Pray at Night, which I don't think is very good. But it can get worse. And The Strangers Chapter 1 is much worse. It is a straight up remake of the 2008 movie with worse actors, people you don't know.
Is it one of them a TikTok star or something?
I mean, if you told me that, I would 100% believe it from the acting in this movie. And if it's the girl, I would 100% believe you, because her acting in this movie is terrible. Like, there are scenes where she's like crying, and like, it is some of the most fake shit I've ever seen in a movie. The problem I have, the main reason why I like the original Strangers, is that it had a good sense of building tension. Like, you have all those scenes where it's like, they're not jump scares. Like, it's a scene of like, hey, they're in this room, and then you see that guy like kind of appear in the background because they're watching, and then they slowly disappear. No, in this movie, they just do the Batman thing over and over again, where it's just like, hey, he's there, but then he's not there. And they do it all the fucking time, like every single time. Then the one scene where they show, because there's obviously the guy, and then I assume it's two girls because they have the baby doll masks, but they never take their masks off in this one. But the guy that's in the scarecrow mask, there is one scene where he gets shot at and he runs away. It's one of the most comical things I've seen in a movie this year. It just looks terrible the way he runs. Like, it's just, I laughed out loud. It's not supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be scary. The other problem I have with this is it's the 3-part movie. There are 3 chapters that are already filmed. The movie, this one ends almost identical to the original Strangers, with the exception of the girl survives the attack in the original, but here it's the same thing, but she wakes up in a hospital instead. And then they say to be continued. And I like, where is this going? That was my question when it ended. Like, what more is there to say about this? Like, I don't know. It's just, the acting is worse somehow. Like, they're not a believable couple at all. I think in this one, they are staying at an Airbnb in like Oregon or something. So they changed the setting up a little bit. It's just, the original movie was much more believable. And like I said, it wasn't a jump scare movie. It just had tension. This movie has jump scares. Like, there's literally a scene where the girl is taking a shower. And this was one part of the movie that bothered me. Like, I don't know anyone that just leaves the fucking bathroom door open when they take a shower. I don't know who's going to
movie or TV,
right?
Yeah.
Okay. The dude shows up and pulls a Batman by watching her take a shower. So literally, it's like, and they do it like every time he shows up. It's like, here he is, and the girl's like kind of washing her hair, and then all of a sudden she like goes to look. Oh, he's gone, just like Batman. They just do that over and over again in this movie. So it's just trying to get jump scares out of you, and none of it works. So terrible. Worst movie I've seen this year. And like, I knew going into it, I'm like, there's no fucking way this will be any better than the original movie. I just didn't know how bad it was going to be. So it made me angry, because I like that original movie so much. I have a poster of that movie. Like, I was a big fan when it came out.
Yeah.
So that's what I got to see. I will kick it over to you, Dan, because you have a chuckle.
It's just, I told you I was bored yesterday, and it's like, let's just put on a movie. So I went searching, and then for some reason I decided, why don't we watch the original 2 Tomb Raider movies back to back? And I don't know what made me do this. I probably haven't seen either one of them maybe since they came out.
I was going to say, have I seen the original Tomb Raider since it came out in theater?
Maybe
Probably
like
not.
on TV randomly.
Maybe randomly in the background.
Yeah.
I will say this. They don't... the effects in them don't hold up particularly well because it's a strange mix of okay CG and okay practical effects.
Okay.
So where the whole thing is just kind of whatever.
Okay.
But man, did I forget that Daniel Craig is in the first one and Gerard Butler's in the second one. That is crazy to me.
Let me ask this: Are they? Do you, now that you've gone back and you've rewatched them?
Yeah.
Do you find them better than the 2018?
Absolutely.
Reboot?
Because the thing about them is, while they're cheesy and campy, they are Tomb Raider movies. They fit the idea of she is already a Tomb Raider. She is established as a Tomb Raider. And, you know, quote unquote, you know, hot opinion here, but Angelina Jolie at this time, this is like peak Angelina Jolie.
Yes, it was.
Like she was 100%. Everywhere. She looks exactly like her. They did a phenomenal job. She has the body type, the hair, everything.
Yeah, it was good casting in 2001.
It is. They completely nailed it. And something they did not do again with that character until they casted the last trilogy of games. That girl is perfect as a young Lara Croft establishing herself. Right?
Oh, the actress
Camilla Luddington. Yes, she was phenomenal.
She was great.
Alicia Vikander, like nothing against her. It didn't work.
She looked the part, but she didn't have
in a sense. But going back to like these movies, like Angelina Jolie saves it. And the weird part is rewatching it, she actually doesn't even talk that much.
Really?
It's strange to watch again because it opens with that scene where like she's fighting the robot in the fake like temple they have built at her house. Because Croft Manor is a huge part of this. Remember, like she has the giant building, she has the training areas, and like there's like they siege her house at one point, and she fights. Remember, she's fighting on that like wire around the room where she's running in circles and shit. I'd forgotten a lot of it, but it's kind of dumb fun. I do think it kind of falls apart at the end because the whole thing is about time travel and like a triangle.
I kind of remember that. Yeah.
All she really does with the time travel thing at the end is save Daniel Craig from dying. And she gets to talk to her dad for like 2 seconds. And then that movie also just kind of abruptly ends.
The first one?
Yeah, it's a little strange because they get out of the thing that's like, you know, blowing up at the end. And then they cut back to her house. And then, you know, some random hard song that sounds like a Crystal Method ripoff plays. I forget. It's probably a song, and I just don't remember what.
Are you sure it's not like Firestarter or something?
That is in the movie, I think.
It is in the movie.
That is in the movie at one point.
That would be it. That would be in early 2000s.
There's another song that's similar to it, and it's probably a song. I just can't remember. But and then I immediately started the second one, and it just kind of again throws you into it. She's got to go do this other thing instead. Pandora's Box is the second one.
Is the second one the one where she punches a shark?
Yes, because she has.
That's all I remember. The
beginning of the movie is she goes underwater to this like temple. And then obviously other people, and much like a James Bond movie, no one's been here in 5,000 years. We all show up at this exact same time.
Of course.
So that one's dumb for different reasons. It has bad CG for different reasons. But again, she 100% looks the part. They give her, you know, Gerard Butler as I'm ex-military in jail. I'll be your sidekick kind of a dude because they gotta. She can't be alone. She has to do it with somebody else.
Yeah.
And it just it runs the course and it ends. And again, they're not particularly good, but as a video game movie, if you just accept that, obviously when this was made, this was what video game movie.
Put it on the same level as like the first Mortal Kombat.
It's not a bad movie to watch. I love the Street Fighter movie. That's a bad movie.
That's not a good movie, but I like
this
it
is above. Yeah. This is above that. It's not going to be as good as Mario or some other ones. I'm sure I can't really think of right now, but
I mean, it's better than Final Fantasy Spirits Within.
Everything is.
Which came out the same summer as the first Tomb Raider.
Yeah, So
I remember that because I remember going to see both of those in the theater.
I didn't see Spirits Within in theater.
You didn't do it in theater? Really?
Tomb Raider,
that surprises
Tomb Raider,
me.
I definitely did. Final Fantasy, I don't know why.
I was so fucking amped for that movie.
I don't remember.
And it was such a bummer.
But
oh my god.
Yeah, Tomb Raider movies. If you haven't watched them in a while, they're worth.
I'm thinking about it.
They're worth rewatching because they move along. They don't drag at any point. It's just kind
of thinking I could play some Supermarket Sim and watch that.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely. That's it for me then.
Well, Matt, you saw a big new release.
Bad boys, what you gonna do?
Which did very well at the box office, by the way.
So I think this movie was better than 3.
I have not watched 3 yet, so
3 wasn't horrible, but if something felt off during the movie, I just couldn't really put my finger on it. 1 and 2 were my favorites of this whole genre, but I think 4 kind of brought back the
feel of like the Michael Bay
era.
Feel
of the originals.
Yeah. Okay.
This one, I mean, if you didn't watch 3, spoiler alert, Cat dies in the 3rd one. But in this one, you get information releases that shows Captain Howard was a bad guy.
Okay.
He pretty much had been working with the cartels. Essentially, this is what they're saying. Okay. He's being blackmailed, or not blackmailed, but what's the word I'm looking for?
Extorted?
Not even extorted. Damn, what's... I forgot. But he pretty much, they're saying that Captain Howard's always been a bad guy.
Okay.
And that he's been working with the cartels that essentially move drugs, and he just gets money for them. So, of course, Mike and Marcus don't stand for that because Cap wasn't a bad guy. They know him way too better. So you kind of get a throwback to some characters who were, you get to see bits of Cap.
Okay.
In the first one, I forget his name. Now I want to look it up real quick.
So I think the main thing that I saw, like people saying coming out of this one, is that it was more fun than the last one, and kind of retained more of the feel of the original too. Than 3 did.
It really did, because that's how I felt about it too. Okay. I felt like the relationship between Mike and Marcus got better
in this one.
Realistically, I really enjoyed it. It was fun. There were a lot of... I'm not going to say my theater was completely packed, but it was a good, I would say about 70% full. John Sally, that's his name.
Okay.
John Sally was in the original one. And so he makes a cameo in this one.
That's cool.
So it's really cool. And I will say there is... out of all the action sequences that happen, there is one scene that just fucking took the cake.
Is it the one with the gun thing?
It's the one with red. No. Okay. I know what you're talking about. Because I keep
hearing people talk about this gun thing, and I'm like, that's kind of the hardness I have to see the movie. So
apparently there's a video where they pretty much they mounted a camera onto a pistol.
Yeah.
And you essentially see, like, it's a POV type view, like they're flipping it back and forth as they're walking.
That seems
around.
really cool and ingenious.
It's like the coolest shots that I've seen in a movie in quite some time.
I'm into that.
But the action sequence that throws you off involves Martin Lawrence's son-in-law.
Okay.
And it's fantastic. And the way they kind of circle back at the end of the movie is even better. All in all, I would say that if you like the first 2 Bad Boys, you'll really enjoy this one.
Okay.
It was real. I had a lot of fun with it. Like, I definitely want to watch it again when it drops, like when it comes out of theaters.
Okay.
Because I think there are little things that I might have missed that I enjoyed. I will say the villain is kind of... what's the word?
Weak.
Not even weak. You kind of can tell who it's going to be.
It's kind of predictable who it is. Okay.
Thank you. Predictable.
Okay.
That's the word I was looking for. It's kind of predictable in a way, but all in all, it was fun. It was a good film. It was the right time. Like, I didn't find myself getting like bored of it, and the humor is all there. I will say the one thing that they do a really good job of is Will Smith depicts panic attacks in this one. From like a lot of the just like the stress he's in going around and what he's worried about. But his panic attacks are like spot on. Like he did a really good job portraying that.
Interesting.
And it carries over really well.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a very fun film. If you enjoyed the first two, I would definitely say go watch this one because it was a lot of fun. Then after that, I watched The First Omen. I will say, even though The First Omen and Immaculate kind of came out on the same frame and they kind of had the same idea,
they're different.
They're different. They're totally different.
Totally different.
I will say, with Immaculate, I wasn't too like queasy. I'm not even gonna say queasy. I'm gonna say uncomfortable in a way. It was a good movie, and
Sydney Sweeney did really good in that, and that movie. It did make you feel uncomfortable, but it just would have moments of like kind of shock gore. Like, for example, when the girl like jumps off the building or whatever and hits the pavement, and they just kind of peel her up like that. That was graphic in a way that it came out of nowhere. I was like, oh, like we're showing that. Whereas like The First Omen can be uncomfortable.
Yeah,
especially
but not like
the
in a
end.
bad way. It was just one of those things where you're watching it and you're just like, huh. Like, okay, all right. Oh, okay. I kind of got a little bit of the heebies, but it's not scary. Like, it's definitely not a scary movie.
No, like I didn't feel that it was scary at all. It didn't even give me it didn't give me like an uncomfortable vibe like Hereditary or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But it there are some things in there like, I mean, I think I said before, like, spoiler, if you don't want to see a C-section, you probably don't want to watch First Omen.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously that other scene.
I was about to say that one scene where you
with the hand.
Everything. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. That's the other scene. That's a little
I really
weird.
Enjoyed it. I will say I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's a very good start.
It perfectly lines up with the original movie.
Yeah.
At the end. So
I'm really stoked to see where they go with the next ones.
Yeah, because the thing that's cool about it is like the way that it ends. I mean, obviously the whole point was to line it up with the original, but they also set it up with these characters that they could make a sequel to this as like a side story that is going on at the same time.
Exactly.
So they did kind of a smart play there, I think. So whereas
I really enjoyed it. I definitely would say whenever they release the next whatever film it's going to be, I definitely would be interested.
I would much rather see a sequel to this than another remake of The Omen. Because I didn't like the 2006 remake at all. So
not at all.
Not compared to the original.
Yeah, that's it for me. They say both of those movies get a good thumbs up. They were very good.
And they got that original music too, The Omen.
Yeah.
Like they use the original music, which is cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Well, the other thing I am excited, and I'll be able to talk about it next time we record, is The Theater by Me. I didn't know this, because apparently this was going on when I went to see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes last month, but The Theater by Me, I mean, I talk all the time about how, like, it's weird because whenever I go up by Dan and we go to the theater there, it's always dead.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, right? Like,
every time.
It's just always dead. But every time I go to the theater by me, it's packed. One of the reasons is because in the town that I live in, the theater that was here was a Regal and they shut it down. It's gone.
Oh, okay.
But I have two choices, like either go left or go right into whatever next town I want to go into. But the theater that I go to apparently has been so successful in the last year, they expanded. They opened 4 more auditoriums with more new seating and everything. And so I'm excited to see that because I didn't even know that was going on when we were there last time. Like if there was construction going on, like they did a great job of hiding it. I had no idea. So I'm excited to see that. Because I think I told you too that like the pricing is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like just for me and my girlfriend to go on a Thursday night, like this is not a matinee. $9 per person.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Ridiculous. Yeah. I think at the theater that you and I go to, it's like 15 a person.
I don't think it's
for an evening.
that bad, but it's not.
It's like 13
$9.
maybe.
Yeah,
it's more than $9.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, we can kick over to emails. We have several to go through here. First one, once again, we talk about it every week. It's going to keep coming up until it's over.
It's never going to be over.
I'm going to say that. I know. Grady from North Point, Michigan. Hi, guys. Love the podcast and loving the coverage of GamerGate 2 and your takes. What do you think of the recent explosion over this past weekend where Alyssa Mercante put out a challenge to fight anyone and then just backed off when 2 different YouTuber women accepted? Is she just blowing smoke again? The whole situation has to end with her leaving Kotaku, right? So what you know of the situation, right?
Of course.
You know what happened. Okay.
I mean,
so I will run it down.
Predictable is what I would say.
Yeah, I would say it's predictable. So I will run it down because I didn't even know that this was going on. So I decided obviously we've talked about it on the podcast before. I was always a massive Giant Bomb fan. You were too. I listened to that podcast basically since the beginning. I kind of started to drop out of it when Vinny, Brad, and Alex left to go do Nextlander.
That was the first like major hit.
Yeah, and then that last year before Jeff left, he was like in and out listening to the Bombcast, and then when he left, that was kind of like my cutoff of like, it's all new people and Dan Reichert. So, I've kind of kept out of it, but I knew they were doing live shows after Summer Games Fest. So I was like, I'll tune into one of those and kind of scroll through it this weekend. So I think it was night 1. I didn't even know that this Alyssa Mercante was going to be on it. Like I had no idea. So I kind of scrolled through just to see like, okay, who are the guests on? And then happened to see her pop up. And I was like, oh no, like, is she going to be normal or is she going to open her mouth about Gamergate 2? No, she had to open her mouth.
It was never going to be normal. Let's put it that way.
No, that's the first thing I'll say. It was never going to be normal. So, and I feel bad too, because when you look at all the different people that were in the room at the time, that one dude from MinMax is there and he just looks fucking uncomfortable.
Well,
like, I don't want to be in this room when this is going on, because she basically took the mic. She had her own little rant, but she put out a challenge to the internet. Come fight me physically.
Yeah.
I think the term was "come fight me physically, bitch," is what she said.
Yeah.
Here's the problem.
It had to be antagonistic. It couldn't just be a statement.
It was. This was after telling people that I think we should be nicer to everybody in the games industry, and then proceeds to follow up with "come fight me."
They should be nicer unless it pertains to her opinion, in which case it can be however she wants it to be.
Anyways, so she does this, and two different female YouTubers accepted her challenge. One of them, Vera Dark. The other one, I want to say her name is like it's based after the Star Wars character Mara Jade. Okay, it's important to note, first of all, as far as I saw, Alyssa Mercante only ever acknowledged one of these challenges. And the one that she didn't acknowledge was Mara Jade. That girl, from what I looked into, is ex-military.
Yeah.
She's like ex-Air Force, and she has 3 kickboxing trophies. I don't think you want to fuck with her. The other one, she just kept changing the rules. That was the thing, is like they had a back and forth on Twitter. They had DMs going about it. They even had somebody was willing, like, hey, I'll set up your fight for you.
Because at first she was like, well, you can't put it on your YouTube and make money off of it. She said, fine, whatever. Well, whatever money we make goes to charity. You pick the charity.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't good enough.
No, that wasn't good enough. She said, well, you only let me choose one. I want to choose multiple. It's like, I think she even said, that's fine. Like, who cares? Donate to however many charities you want. And then so it just kept, changing.
I'm too busy to do this.
I'm too busy. And then it turned into, well, I really just meant like a public meetup. And then it turned into, well, you know, we'll do this in like a gym. First, it was the streets, which I laughed at. Like,
she wanted it to be someplace no one could watch it.
Which, you know what that means in reality. She'll just have other people there, and they're going to beat the shit out of the other person.
Right. Or
if that actually was going to happen,
would show up. Right.
It's one of two things would happen. Either all her friends would show up and that happens, or two, she doesn't show up at all.
Right.
And then how do you prove it? Nobody else is there.
Right.
Anyways, and then obviously she backed out of it. And just, I'm busy, whatever. She was never going to fight anybody. She's never going to fight anybody.
No.
So that's the whole point there.
Never going to do that at all.
It's never going to happen.
Because the only thing she knows is words and how to use words the way she wants to use them against the people she wants to use them against. Mm-hmm. That's all it is.
She's also in the last week gone through the typical thing that these people do, which is the private my Twitter, now open it, private it, open it, private it, open it. Yeah.
Attack some,
blocking people,
block them immediately. Mm-hmm. Whatever furthers her narrative. And then the same 6 people comment on her Twitter, you're doing great out there, kind of stuff. And it's just like, Jesus Christ. Like,
it's like the same 6 people that in the games industry. One of them is the guy that have basically found recently a post from, and this is another part that's going on with GamerGate continuously now. He found a post from a company that Smash JT guy worked at a couple of years ago, like a public post of like him with his kids and stuff, and then posted that all over the internet. So what happens?
Jesus. 2
people have now contacted that former employer of his trying to get questions. One of them is the person that started this whole thing, Chris Kindred of Sweet Baby.
Oh, weird.
And here's what happened. Here's how he found out. The guy was so stupid, he left his real fucking phone number there.
Oh, boy.
And so that Smash JT got that and put it together and found out who it was. And the other person that did it the very next day was just some other person. I don't think it was a journalist.
Sure.
It was just another wacko on the internet.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which is going on. So you have all of that going on, which is fucking ridiculous. And then today, the thing that now has kind of blown up is like, well, maybe there is kind of a conspiracy theory with Sweet Baby and these journalists in writing hit pieces on specific companies and specific games, trying to create a narrative like there is one for whatever problem they might have. And then that company or Sweet Baby or whatever DEI company it is, we'll use Sweet Baby as an example, steps in and goes, hey, we can come in and help you clean up your public image for X amount of money, right. Which in the case crazy. Of the game that the studio leaked all this information on was that the monkey one. I always forget the name. Wukong, right? They're the ones that came out today and kind of posted all this shit that started this up. The Sweet Baby approached them and said, hey, we'll fix your public image for $7 million.
Yeah.
So that seems like extortion.
A little bit.
So, just a little bit. So like if that's what's actually happening, like that's fucking insane. And I kind of hope that at this point, if that is what's happening, again, it's a little conspiracy theory, but
of course, it all tracks back to an IGN article written about how that game is sexist.
So it tracks back to an IGN article as well as an article by The Gamer.
Right. And
so there were multiple.
It's an article written by a friend of hers. And also that article, maybe it already did, but I checked it today just to make sure. Comments are turned off.
They always are.
But maybe they weren't originally, but until this thing came out, who knows? But again, comments are always turned off and posts are always protected because they cannot accept. Obviously, people are going to be out there saying things back at them which shouldn't be said. However,
yes,
it's also a really convenient way to make sure that other people's opinions aren't heard on your topic.
It is
real convenient.
Which again, and it all boils down to the same thing that happens every time: is that if you don't have the opinion that these people have, then you're in the wrong every single time.
No, it's not. It's not that you're wrong. It's not that you're wrong. It's that you're an enemy.
You're an enemy.
You're immediately.
Well, they take it to the extreme. They take it to the extreme. Yeah, like if you disagree with their opinion, you are immediately labeled like a far right wing.
You're targeted.
Yeah. And you're targeted, and then they come after you. It's no longer like you can't just have a different opinion on something anymore when it comes to that kind of stuff. it is immediately you are a target. And when it comes to the fact that when you're labeled a target, it's not just like, oh, he doesn't agree with this opinion. It is like, we're going to burn down the place that you work. We're going to go after your family, your job, your pets, your house, whatever. It's insane.
Yeah.
How out of control.
We talk about like this has to end with her getting fired for Kotaku. No, it doesn't. It doesn't, because Kotaku
you don't think so?
Loves it. They're getting clicks, dude. Clicks all the time.
Yeah. They're going to continue to get clicks until she goes too far with something.
Yeah, but how far is too far? She's already doxing some people. That's not far enough.
I don't know. What's like next? That's the thing is, I don't know what the line is for them at this point.
Right. But they don't care, because all they give a shit about is engagement, and it's engagement on everything. Look at how often they repost the same shit on Facebook or Instagram all the time. They'll repost something they posted 2 days ago. And every comment on it is, cool, you already posted this. But that's a click. That's a comment. That's an engagement.
Well, on the flip side of that, speaking of Kotaku, did you see that they were proving that they're using Twitter farming bots as well?
That one
there's an account on Twitter. I think he goes by the name of Master of TDS or something like that, but he's been like fighting the war against Twitter bots for the past couple months, but he just uncovered like in the last week they use like a really cheap form of that, which is when you go look at it, it's very generic handles, and then it's like the same phrase over and over again. Hey, wow, great article. I agree with this. Like over and over again.
That's how Reddit works these days too. Like that shouldn't shock anyone. Like no,
it shouldn't. Disney does it all the time.
Yeah, everyone. They all do it.
They do. The major companies.
There was a big thing about that a long time ago about like IMDb, all these 10 ratings out of nowhere for certain things.
Yeah, I still think there's going to be a breaking point where she will do something that whatever it is at the extreme where they're forced to go.
She's reaching Frost levels. Like
this was, in my opinion, this was a Frost level rank.
This is right there, and like this. And the thing is this should be enough. But the Frost thing was kind of like that switch flipped, and she just went off, and they were like, "Cut it." This has been such a build that it's just like, yeah, this is the next logical progression for her.
But here's the funny thing, and I pointed this out to you. After that went viral on Twitter, Giant Bomb untagged themselves from that post, which I thought was humorous.
Yeah.
Why would they want to back away? But my theory on that is not the people that were in the room, but the company that owns Giant Bomb probably said,
because
hey,
plenty of people that were in the room already stepped up and were like, I'll fight anybody too. I'm going to do this. Like, stop inserting yourself into all this stuff too. Like, that's the other thing is like, everybody's, what are we trying to ride her coattails for? Like,
I don't get it.
You're going to end up on the wrong side.
If you go down the path, like when she doesn't have her Twitter account blocked or whatever, and you go down it, it's literally the same 6 people that comment or like it. She doesn't get that many likes on her shit. So it's just the same 6 idiots that keep, like, yeah, this is great. Some of them are game journalists, and one of them is a very, very fucked up individual, the one that's posting those pictures.
Right.
So it's just, it's gotten insane.
But again, it's okay if they post pictures, but if he puts the thing on his website that says these are people that worked at this company, that's too far.
I personally love that he was. I mean, obviously, it should have never been taken down in the first place because they basically doxed it to get it taken down. But I love that it's back up. He can continue to do it because again, he's not in the wrong in that case, and I love that it bothers them.
Right,
it is the worst thing to them that it just having their picture there on this list with what they've done.
Right,
is like the worst fucking thing.
And it's all public knowledge. It's all stuff you've posted specifically for other people to read and engage with. He's just collecting it in one spot.
Yeah. I'll also point out, because I think it's funny, the other guy that's involved in this, that Nick Calander guy, I think we talked about him last time we recorded.
Yeah.
He was a part of it. Then he kind of, we said like he probably got pulled aside, like, hey, you need to knock it off. And he said he kind of stopped talking about it. He started talking about it this week. He approved of her little message or whatever. And I thought it was interesting. Today I saw that guy post after he got, a lot of flack. I'm going to be off Twitter for the next couple days.
Oh, weird.
Weird. Do you think he got talked to again?
He just can't take it.
No, I think his company talked to him again.
I think it's both.
Knock it off.
I think it's both. Because he puts himself out there and he can't take it. All these people are big mad, big opinions, big whatever. Can't take it.
Well, the other thing too, and I think it's important to note, is like if Smash JT, that guy, if he really wanted to, he could go to Patreon and tell that guy violated the terms of service for Patreon by having a bunch of his followers from Patreon go and dox that website. That guy could get his Patreon shut down. He's just not going to do that because he doesn't want, that guy doesn't want to be that involved. He just wants to report on it.
Right.
So, which they're just taking an issue on it because he's pointing out the fallacy. The whole thing's a fucking
The whole thing's just fucking awful.
I would like it to end, but my ideal scenario is it ends with Kotaku being done, but it's Kotaku. I feel like it's one of those things where it's just going to still just continue to survive and exist. And the next person will buy it and they'll continue it. But I do like now the pushback against Alyssa Mercante. I've seen a lot of people do the same comments like, don't you have some game guides to write or something? Well, I've seen that a couple times. That's maybe
it's like immediately, why aren't you going to fight these people? You said you'd fight anyone anytime.
She got it so hard on, I think, Monday after that, when the two girls were like, hey, we'll fight you, set it up, that she was trending on Twitter.
Right.
Which is fucking insane to me. So, but she's getting what she wants. She just wants attention.
That's all it is.
That's all it is. So, and unfortunately, we're never going to get to the point where people just ignore her. So, because she's too loud and boisterous about it. So, yeah, I want it to end. I would want it to end. My ideal, like I said, was Kotaku goes away, but I think it's infected all of games journalism. It's not just, there's very few good game journalists out there anymore. I think it's a lot of the government. There are some good ones. So I still trust Jeff Gerstmann. hanging out in his house, playing with his kid or whatever, streaming some NES games. I trust his opinion that, hey, I don't really like game X.
Yeah,
I believe that because that's how he's been for 25 years.
I will say he and I, we definitely have differing opinions on games for sure.
Hell yeah.
But he will at least be like, I don't like this game. This game sucks. It's a bad game, and this is why. Yeah. And he'll tell you why. And he was never afraid.
He's brutally honest.
He was never afraid to say no, so much so that it got him fired from GameStop. But because he was correct.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I trust him for the most part. I trust the Nextlander guys because they're very similar because they're old school game journalists. I think that's where the line is. You're talking about guys who came up in the GameSpot, early reviews on the internet days versus keyboard warriors. I've got a Twitter account. I'll say whatever the hell I want.
Well, think about it. The era that those dudes came up with was obviously the internet was a thing, but they were writing articles for magazines.
They literally built online games journalism together.
They did. So it's wild, but I think they're respectful. I need to watch more Nextlander stuff.
It's not journalism anymore. It is content clicks, farming. That's all it is.
Yep.
Well, whenever for me personally, whenever they talk about Alyssa Mercante, I always like to use the term Kotaku blogger because that's what I feel she is. I don't think she's a journalist.
No, it's a blogger.
She's a blogger. That's what Kotaku is. It's a blog.
Freelance people. It's all just junk.
Opinions that are garbage. So, but I want it to end. So most of us do. Next email we have comes to us from Julie from Topeka, Kansas. Hi guys, I recently found this podcast. I've been listening to it for a few episodes now. I love when you all talk retro. I apologize if this question has been asked before, but I was wondering, what was y'all's first video game you ever played and what game really got you into the hobby? Thanks.
Hubert.
I was going to say, Dan's face looks stumped.
No, it's Nintendo. Well, realistically, it's Atari, but Nintendo would be, probably Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt and stuff. That would be like the smattering of the first games I played. When I really started to get into it, though, if that's what we're talking, is getting a Super Nintendo. And just Nintendo has a lot of stuff on it, and it's, but a lot of it's primitive. Super Nintendo was the first time where it's like a game could take you 60 hours, 80 hours. You could replay stuff. Look at a game like Chrono Trigger where it's got multiple endings.
Yeah.
I think that's when I first finally started to get heavily into games as a hobby, as opposed to just playing Nintendo for an hour or something.
Yeah, I can see that.
Getting guides, reading guides, getting a subscription to game magazines.
There you go.
Getting not that a lot of this stuff existed in the early 90s, but getting like toys and other things that went along with it, and started to get into that kind of stuff. And which, ruined my life, but that's fine now.
Hey, ruined all of our lives. For me, first game I ever played would be original Super Mario Brothers. Because my parents of all people, they came home with an NES. This would have been when it launched. This would be a couple years after, because I was very young.
I was 3.
I was like 3, yeah. So this would have been like 89. It had to have been the same year as Batman came out, because I remember vividly. One of my earliest memories, I remember vividly is seeing the trailer for that on TV and then hounding them. We need to go to the theater.
Yeah.
I want to see that. And we went. So I bothered them enough that we went. So that was one of my first movies as a kid, was that and Little Mermaid. But Mario Brothers would be the first game I ever played. First that like maybe really got me into the hobby, like more so like getting obsessive about it. I go back and forth on this a little bit. If you want to talk NES era, it'd be a combo of Castlevania and Castlevania 3. In that era, I did not play Castlevania 2. I discovered that later. Castlevania as a franchise, I mean, I think I've told you this, Dan. I didn't discover Castlevania as a franchise on the NES. I discovered it at our local Pizza Hut.
Oh, yeah.
On that arcade machine, which like that, you want to talk about a holy grail item I would like to have in my collection? That fucking arcade machine.
Yeah.
Yes. Which I still kick myself. I never went and asked them, like, $50, I'll haul it myself and just put it back together. Because it's just a tube TV and it's a very like not complex arcade cabinet.
What was this?
To what other ones are.
Machine.
Yeah. Like you would sit down. It's two-sided. So one side of it was Castlevania, had a tube TV, and then the other side of it had a different tube TV and was Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
So
I remember it vividly.
Sure. And then the one that really broke me into it though between Castlevania was Castlevania 3. Because at the time I discovered Castlevania, like 1, 2, and 3 were already out. And then going to my friend Steve's house down the street, he had Castlevania 3. So discovering that, I'm like, oh, there's a third game. And then just really getting into it whatever summer that was, because we just kept taking turns until we beat it. And that was really like, I really enjoyed that. And then after that, it would have been Super Nintendo. So Super Nintendo, like going to, and I think we've talked about that too. Like I've talked about how I got my Super Nintendo, but a precursor to that was the same people that sold me their Super Nintendo when I was a kid. We went to, they had like, it was somebody that my dad worked with. They had like a barbecue or something. And so we went to go to that, and it was one of those situations you probably remember in the 90s too. Like parents had a party. What do the kids do? They go in the basement and play video games.
Yeah, my dad.
And I remember
like that. Yeah,
I remember going down in the basement. First time I ever even seen a Super Nintendo. I didn't even know it existed. Like, what is this? Oh, it's Super Nintendo. The fuck is Super Nintendo? Hey, let's look at Super Mario World. Yeah. Blew my fucking mind. All I talked about after that. That is probably why when that kid was like, I'm going to college overseas and, we can sell this Super Nintendo. That's probably why my dad was like, we'll buy it, because I wouldn't shut up about Super Mario World.
Yeah.
After I played, it's like, I don't want to play Super Mario Brothers 3. Get out of here. I want to play Super Mario World. So, but Castlevania 3 probably, because it blew my mind how that game looked. The complexity, like if you go from Castlevania 1 to 3, just the complexity of those 8-bit graphics between those two games,
for sure.
insane. So, and then the other weird, I'll throw this out there. I wouldn't say it like brought me into it, but I have a lot of reverence for it. And I've pointed it out to you at different conventions. Some point I'll get it. 8 Eyes for NES.
Oh,
played a lot of that game randomly.
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely weird games. There were definitely a lot of weird Nintendo games that I played too much of. And I couldn't tell you why. Silent Service, like the submarine game, I remember playing it all the time. Not a great game.
Shalom? Is that what it's called? The downhill ski game?
Shalom's a different word there, Jim.
Okay. I played a lot of that.
Yeah, that.
That too.
Mega Man 1 was another one that like I just played over and Turtles 1, even though Turtles 1 is impossible. Played it over and over and over and over and over as a kid.
Turtles in Time was the one I think I started with.
Oh, okay.
And then went back and was like, oh, there's these other ones.
2 and 3 are
but
good.
Turtles in Time, we played so much.
2 and 3 are good. One's not.
And then I remember going to, obviously, like, if you were a Super Nintendo kid, you would have the one weird friend that would have a Genesis or vice versa. So I remember going to the one weird friend that had a Genesis and be like, what's this Hyperstone Heist game? And be like, what is this? Or like, hey, you have Batman Returns for the Genesis, but it's a completely fucking different game than my Super Nintendo one.
Ghostbusters and stuff was.
Yeah, what is happening? Yeah, so crazy. It's a crazy.
We would decide what game we wanted to play, and then we'd just go to that person's house for the day.
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
You want to play hockey? All right, we'll go to your house because you have the Genesis, and the Genesis has the better version of hockey. But let's go play Mario or something at my house. Like that.
I'll also say, like, early days of that would be like only if it was a rainy day.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, the parents would be like, "No, you go play outside." And then at some point, it was like, "Fuck it, I don't care anymore."
Yeah.
Like you're gonna be inside watching Power Rangers, or at one point I remember. This would have been my friend Steve. I remember his dad brought home their first computer.
Ooh.
And then that was the first time I experienced Doom.
Yeah.
And Duke Nukem.
Yeah. Wolfenstein.
Mind blowing as a kid that age, seeing something like Doom.
I played a lot of
fucking
Doom.
Insane. And then playing a lot of Doom on that Super Nintendo. Not a good version of that game. But I played a lot of it. So
what about you, Matt?
Yeah, go ahead, Matt. we kind of dominated it, so.
No, you're good. Q*bert, like I said, Q*bert for me was probably the very first game I remember vividly playing. I played a lot of Quicks on the Game Boy.
Okay.
But I never really got into the Game Boy, like as the handheld. That was really the only game my parents bought. That was the only game we played on road trips and stuff. I think for me, like the NES was Duck Hunt, Super Mario Brothers. I played the first Ninja Turtles game religiously. Still never beat it to this day because I got too pissed off and I just can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Then I played 2 and 3, and I think what really did it for me, because the NES wasn't a it was cool, but there wasn't a lot that I really gravitated to. And I didn't have a lot of friends that played video games. A lot of my friends played outside more than anything else.
There's definitely a lot of that, though.
So, like, it was just kind of one of those things where, like, if I wanted to play games, I did it by myself. And, at that point, it wasn't really a lot of fun, so you just never really played. But I would have to say that I think the Super Nintendo is what really got me in, because I played Super Mario Brothers 2, and I was like, or Super Mario World.
Insane.
And I was like, yeah, this game's fucking dope. And then when I found out about the star map, and then that you could reverse it and change all the hidden thing in it, and like that became a whole new game, even though it was still the same game.
Yeah,
was a lot of fun. And then TMNT Turtles in Time was a great one for me. So I think that's what really did it for me, because again, my parents didn't like video games. My sisters didn't really care for the video games. We had 2 TVs that were always being fought about. So like gaming wasn't anything I really did. But I remember vividly telling my parents I really wanted a PlayStation when it came out.
PS1?
Yeah, and I really wanted Resident Evil 1.
There you go.
Because I saw commercials on it, and I was like, this game looks dope. Like, can I get it? And I remember the Christmas was the first time I actually snuck out and I snuck in the room and like looked for presents.
Yeah.
And like, I like cut the tape off the corner and like you kind of unfold it and shit. And yeah. And then I had to like tape the tape and
never went
directly tape it back.
No, I didn't.
Oh yeah. Yeah, man. I was in it. Like, and I remember opening the one box because I was like, I'm just gonna do one and I won't touch anything else because I just want to check it out. And I opened it up and it was a PlayStation, and I was like, well, let's just tape that back up. I just ruined my own Christmas. And kind of went like that. So I mean, I opened it on Christmas, got Resident Evil 1, and that just kind of took off. And then that's where I just started collecting random stuff out of the blue out of that time. And
well, that it's the funny thing for me to look back on, because like I said, my parents bought an NES for Tetris, not Mario. and they would play like up. My parents would play games up until 3D. When 64 happened, that was when they're like, this is too complicated for us. Because they played like even Super Nintendo, like they would play Mario World, they would play anything like 2D side scroller. I remember when Tetris 2 came out, I remember like my dad was always very big of like, you know, I couldn't buy a lot of games but rent everything, but for whatever reason, of course, we could go buy Tetris 2.
Of course.
Which I don't think he ended up liking as much as the original Tetris, but the minute the 64 came out, and it probably is the same thing. We look at that controller now and go, this is a fucking nightmare. I don't know.
My dad's a great example of that too, where he bought me a Nintendo. I asked him once, I was probably like 14 when I was like, what did you buy a Nintendo for? He's like, well, I saw it and I thought it was neat. My dad was always very interested, I guess, like in the idea of video games.
Yeah.
Because he grew up going to bars and playing arcades and playing foosball and all that kind of stuff. So he thought it'd be cool to have one for the home. We'd play a little bit of Nintendo together when it would be like baseball or anything like that. Super Nintendo, he kind of jumped off of it too. But then when we got to the 64, he was obviously like he was completely out because he's like, it's just too much. But he would still, I remember the day that I got Ocarina of Time, I made a big deal about it, and he was like, well, let me see what it's like. And we put it in. He was like, this is awesome. He's like, oh, well, he would never play it, but he definitely had an appreciation for like what.
Yeah. I'd say that would be the same thing for my parents too. Is like they would watch some of the stuff. My grandma of all people, huge fan of watching me play games. Like Mario is her favorite. But yeah, no, it's like we hit that 64 era. I'm out.
Yeah.
Like it's like, and now looking back on it, you look at that 64 controller, I understand.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah.
So, but good question overall. I don't think we've ever been asked
something maybe similar, but not about that.
Not that one.
Next email we have comes from Brendan from Redacted. So good old GameStop email. Howdy guys, store manager here. I recently had a situation where a key holder of mine had to kick someone out of the store as they were being belligerent after getting into it regarding a trade amount dispute. Customer, and I use this term extremely loosely, is someone who regularly does cash trades and always complains. We've had this as an issue probably the last year, so I'm not surprised that one of us finally snapped and told him he had to take a hike or the cops would be called. My question is, what do you recommend to keep this person from coming back and bothering us? Technically, I have his information because of the trades in the past, and my staff as well as myself don't feel comfortable dealing with this guy anymore. I've reached out to my DL, but he's only told me that we will discuss it the next time he visits, and it just seems too long to wait. Do I have any grounds to call and talk to the police? By the way, thanks for what you guys do. Do you ever have anyone that was that belligerent, like when I was there?
Super, at least not on a basis, but as someone who has discussed this with like DLs before and other people and before,
they'll never shut anyone down.
No, God no. And you have almost no recourse to call the police. That becomes a huge problem if you start to go down that road. Because then it becomes you could I don't think the company's going to let you press charges on behalf of the company. No. The only time we really ever had police involvement was when we got a tip that kid was planning to rob us, even though I don't really think he was. I think he was just a dumbass. But that was a situation where I think we could have gone further if we wanted to, but we basically just told the cops, like, tell them, don't ever come back, kind of a thing.
Yeah, the only time I remember I had to call the cops was we had, and it wasn't just our store, but we had like he had to have been homeless or something and on drugs.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember we had somebody, he went down to the trampoline place like first and was messing around there. Came in our store because it was a morning that I had opened, and I just remember he came in, walked a lap around the store. He's like profusely sweating. And I remember asking me where the exit is. And I'm like, it's right there, man. And he like screamed it at me. And I'm like, the door you came in, man. And then left. And then like a couple minutes later, like 2 girls from the trampoline place came down and like asked. And that's when I was like, all right, I'll call non-emergency. at that point. But that was kind of a different type of situation.
That's a scenario you could go down, is to call non-emergency.
Yeah.
Obviously you're not going to call 911 because that's for other reasons. But
because I want to say also, we definitely had situations where like kids were fucking around in the parking lot or something, called non-emergency.
Roll by.
Yeah.
The problem is like you're going to be stuck waiting for this guy to show up before you can call. Realistically, I think the next step would be, because the DL's not going to insert themselves if they don't have to.
No.
Unless they're on site when it happens, they'll always tell you to just kind of handle it. The next step would be like, if he came up to me, if he came in next and I'm working and I'm the leader, SL, right? Start the conversation with, look, man, I'm happy to process the trade for you, but the value is going to be what the value is. And if you're not going to be okay with that, or if it's going to become a problem, I'll have to ask you to leave at that time. And if you don't, then I will have to call the police. You just kind of spell it out ahead of time. And you'd be serious about it. You'd be respectful about it. You set the expectation of like, you've done this before. You know how it goes. And I don't want to have repeat incident of what happened before. Because the guy knows, he's been kicked out once before. A lot of times if they get kicked out, they tend to not come back. Eventually they will. But it takes some time to do it. Because we've definitely kicked people out before, or said like, I'm not going to process this. I had to do that a couple times. But yeah, I think maybe that's the smart play, is to just be calm about it. Set an expectation of, I'm happy to do it, but I will tell you that the final total I tell you is the final total, and it can't be adjusted.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really probably the best. If you start getting the cops involved, you're kind of asking for it from your DM, which sucks, but the company wants you to diffuse anything and run it like it's your business, but as long as you follow our rules. Yeah, it's a shitty situation to be in.
It is. It is.
You just tell them up front, I'll kick you out if it becomes a problem.
The next email we have comes from Alex from San Diego, California. Howdy, 572 guys. I'm curious if you guys have any takes or thoughts on the Vim's layer being nuked. It's been around for years, and now there's no way to get most of the Nintendo and Sega stuff. It just sucks. Preservation is important. What do you all think? I mean, there's always going to be other sites.
It's a huge bummer,
but it's a bummer because that was probably the one that I always trusted the most.
Yes, and it was the easiest one to get, I would say, newer stuff off of DS.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I went on there not too long ago when that iPhone thing came out, just to see how the DS stuff would work.
Yeah.
It definitely sucks because Vim's has been around forever.
Yeah, like the thing that I did was like when the NES Classic came out, and obviously it was really easy to hack that, and the Super Nintendo, like each of those systems, like I sat down, I'm like, all right, I'll catalog every game that I want for the NES and put it on this one. I'll catalog everything I want for Super Nintendo and put it on that one, and I have all that backed up on a drive on my computer. I went and built
pretty extensive libraries when I got the Pocket.
Yeah, and that's a good time to do that too.
But I will tell you that there definitely are still places to get stuff, because I checked.
Oh, for sure.
I checked the day after to see if other sources were still available.
Yeah,
and they are. It's a little weird that they didn't do this earlier. Like they hadn't started. That it has been around for as long as it has. But I think the iPhone emulator stuff really brought everything straight to the forefront.
And then actually this 128 gigabyte flash drive right here, all PS1 stuff.
Yeah, I've got that.
So
I have a
because the PS1 Classic is weird that you have to plug in a thumb drive into the front of it in the second controller spot,
right?
To to do any kind of emulation, but so anything that I want PS1 I have on that,
right?
So
yeah, it's a bummer. If you know where to look, you can still get almost anything, because one of the things I had not built or had not fleshed out was a Genesis library. And I was like, well, shit, because is it going to be more difficult? So I went to my other place, and it's all still there. It's all works.
Yeah, I never went down the
I would just
Genesis
say
route.
I would just say if you like things to be archived on the internet, wink, you can find stuff.
For sure.
Some of that stuff comes and goes, which is a problem because there was a Super Nintendo one on there and then it disappeared. But they always get put back up. Somebody else will do it. And that's the thing is all this is doing is kind of delaying the inevitable for when they all show up somewhere else.
It is.
If something's on the internet once, it's on the internet forever.
Forever, and it's also another one's gonna pop up, and another one,
and another one, and then they'll make a
down.
backup, or it'll be Zim's Lair. Oops, we changed the name a little bit.
I need to hook up my PS1 Classic so I can play Blood.
You know what sucks? I never got one of those.
You never bought one of those? I bought one when it got down to like $15, and it was like I'm dumb not to buy it. I would have if I had found one. By the time it got to that point, I couldn't get one. And at that point, there was enough of like, okay, we've jailbroken this thing. Right. Here's how you do it.
Yeah, it just wasn't interesting enough at the start because it was it
was way too expensive for what it was.
Version of all this shit.
Yeah,
and hacking it at the time was a pain. So it was like, what I really.
The other thing too that you have to remember is it's a PS1 Classic. It doesn't come with a dual analog controller.
Huge problem.
So that you also have to have the 8-bit do adapter and use a DualShock 4. Right. Which is what I do, which I need to find that adapter. But
just another huge.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of a buy-in. Whereas like when it came out, that's a big buy-in.
I really wish I would have got one at $15, and it's the kind of thing where I'm always kind of looking for it now. But there's still, if you look for it now,
I want to say it was like Black Friday at some point.
I know
where they were just like, let's get rid of them. But I was like, fuck it, I'll do it because why at $15? Why not?
You'd be stupid.
So,
well, it hurts me now even more because I have the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, both Genesis, the Turbo.
I never did the Genesis or the Turbo.
Yeah, so I have all those. It's kind of sucks to not have that one.
Yeah.
And side note, where's my Dreamcast?
I don't know, why have they not done that yet?
I think that would sell.
That would be one of the easiest ones to
and that one only needs like 15 games on it, and the rest of it can be hacked to hell.
Yeah. How have they not done that? That one does baffle me because it would sell.
They went through the process of making a Genesis 2 in Japan, and then I had to, import. Can't make a Dreamcast.
It's crazy. Next email we have comes to us from Carl from Flower Mound, Texas. Hey dudes, love the podcast. I'm curious, with the Switch 2 announcement seemingly confirmed for sometime this year, what do you guys want out of the system? Thanks. What do you want out of a Switch 2?
4K to the TV.
1080 at the for the handheld.
1080 handheld is enough.
I would like, obviously I want that, but I would like some sort of like updates for the previous games to run a little bit better.
If they could boost it. There's like a boost or something in the dock.
Hey, these two Zelda games run at 60 now.
That'd be great.
I don't necessarily need like a huge resolution boost for them.
No.
But if you could like boost the frame rate on games that need it, because there are definitely, and I'm talking about just first party stuff. I'm like, third party's actually really big on the Switch. But for first party stuff, there were a couple of those games that had frame rate issues. Like even the other Zelda remake of the Game Boy Color
Link's
game,
Awakening,
they had some frame rate issues as well.
A little bit, but I love that game.
A little bit,
but yeah, I would like to see performance upgrades. Not necessarily.
Obviously, it has to be backwards compatible, but it's going to be.
It must be backwards.
There's no way they come out and say, "Oh, it's not backwards compatible." There's just no way.
It needs to have more internal storage.
More internal storage. I think they did do this with the new docks, have a wired port, but obviously carry that over with whatever the new dock is. Obviously keep that. I don't think that ever changes though. I think now that they've successfully created a hybrid handheld and home console, they can't go back.
There's no more. It'll never be split again.
I don't think so.
Battery life is obviously one, but that's
I'll give you my one pipe dream, and I don't think they're ever going to do it because they should have done it the Wii U generation. They should have done it, Switch as well. I would like Nintendo to come up with their own achievement system for their games.
Yeah, they're always so far behind on implementing anything.
They are, but like we're at the point now where it's like, okay, it's been 2 generations.
I've got one.
Maybe now they finally.
I've got a great one. This is what needs to happen: GameCube Virtual Console.
I'm shocked it hasn't happened yet.
Just think of all the games that should be available to play on there. Like Pokemon Coliseum should be on there. F-Zero should be on there. But like there's so many GameCube games that should be on there.
I think the reason it hasn't happened yet is because it's easier for them to go, okay, we're going to remake this game and then sell a ton of copies, like Metroid Prime.
Yeah, I get
good example of that.
That's fine, and I get that if that's the plan. But I would. My dream is that one of these companies would just finally say, "We're gonna do it." Like Game Boy games, every Game Boy game we can put on there is on there. Give people the preservation. Give people what they want. You don't want these ROMs to be available for people to play the games of yours that they love and miss and wish they could play on your system. Then give them to them on your system.
I've said it all the time about PlayStation. Like, how amazing would it be that a PS5 just played it all?
It would be unbelievable.
All the way back to one.
Obviously, PS5 is the system leader now, but like, imagine how many more they would sell.
Again, think about and obviously this does exist, but like think about the craziness of the Xbox Series X. You can take your copy of Morrowind and just throw that in.
Amazing. And like Microsoft at least tries. And obviously
they've at least tried with preservation.
They can't get every third party thing. And obviously
licensing and that kind of stuff becomes an issue.
And all that other kind of stuff.
It is.
It's crazy.
I want is to be able to play all my Tony Hawk games.
GameCube Virtual Console would be huge. They could even easily do Wii Virtual Console stuff.
They could.
Because
they could.
Joy-Con works the same as a remote. It's actually better because it doesn't need a fucking sensor bar.
Yeah, true.
But that I think that would be what I would want. What are we gonna get? A Switch that's more powerful that plays regular Switch games, and that's about it. I don't know what else.
I hope that with backwards compatibility they do something that makes them play better, like give a frame rate option or something, rather than go down the path of, well, we made a Switch 2 version of Zelda you can buy and it runs better.
That would be fucked. That would be really fun.
That's what I don't want to see happen. Like, even though, like, you can go ahead and you can put your Switch copy in, but that's totally a route they could take. But I don't want to see that.
I don't want to see Mario Kart 8 again. I want to see
a new Mario Kart, but I also think Skyward Sword again, like you just said, Skyward Sword again. Obviously, I don't either. Obviously, we're not going to get a new Smash Brothers, but maybe it would be nice to like release a Smash Brothers Complete and every character's on the do something like that. Mario Kart Complete. Maybe that's an excuse to do it, because then it's like you don't need the fucking DLC. Or I could see something like that too. Also, how about this time a very streamlined, easy way to transfer your data?
Oh God. You're asking
from a Switch 1 to Switch 2. That's asking too much. I know.
I was actually
it's always been a nightmare.
With my kids today, because I have 2 kids, one Switch for me, one Switch for both of them. But when I get a Switch 2, just give them my Switch and get
your other Switch. Yeah.
Am I going to be able to transfer my stuff properly from a Switch to a Switch 2?
I don't know.
And then be able to reset that Switch so that it could then play games?
That's the main reason I never bought into getting the OLED Switch. Because I'm like, it just seems like a nightmare. Yeah. And I've had a Switch since launch. It's never had a problem.
Yeah.
So definitely gets hot if you're using it in handheld mode, but it's never had a problem. So, at this point, I just want them to fucking announce it. Like, get it over with. Give us a date. Be nice. All right. Final email we have this week. And this will be a quick one.
Okay.
Because you have probably zero opinion on this, knowing what it is. Matt from Oak Park, Michigan. Howdy, guys. I'm curious, well, it's not a movie. Are any of you going to bite on this Acolyte show everyone is shitting on right now? Dan, you're not a Star Wars fan.
Okay. Absolutely not. I don't care about Star Wars. I find most of it incredibly boring.
I understand. I would tell you, as far as Disney Star Wars goes, you're not wrong.
I think I've seen 1 through 6, and my official opinion on 1 through 6, It's all fine.
I remember I remember when Force Awakens came out. I remember like going to see it and then just running the plot of it down for you, and you're like, yeah, that's fine. I don't need to see that.
I know what happens. I know who dies. I know all of it.
Yeah.
Really could care less.
No, like here's my thing. I think Star Wars, for me personally, Star Wars has been dead since The Last Jedi. It had a brief like moment where they breathed a little life into it with The Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2, and they kind of killed that with season 3. Because they changed what the show was about. Like, it was about the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, or Grogu, whatever you want to call him. And then in season 3, they were like, well, what if this show's actually about Katie Sackhoff's character instead? And now everybody's a Mandalorian. That's not what that show was. So they ruined that show. People love the shit on the Obi-Wan show. I thought it was fine. That was the other one I was like, this is okay. I didn't watch Andor. I don't care. I'm not going to watch Ashoka because I don't care. I never did. But this show in particular, I always knew it was going to be bad. Like, we always knew. I know the person, I know of the person that's behind the show. Like, I know her backstory, which she has a pretty dark backstory I'm not going to get into here. But I just knew, like, you always had this feeling of, like, the Acolyte's not going to be good. It's going to be set in this High Republic era that the books were already proven to be a failure, so now you're going to make a TV show of it. But what they have done, and I've seen enough reaction videos this week to know what's happened. No interest.
I read it just if there was of how bad it sounded for this.
It's so bad.
And as someone who, we won't spoil it, but as someone who generally doesn't care and doesn't give a shit what the Force is or who made it or if it's shit in your blood or whatever, this explanation of it is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
It's awful. Yeah. It's awful. Why go this far back and then try to change everything about it? Why continue
to fuck it up? You've rewritten it 3 times. So what actually is it? Like, I don't.
This is what I told my girlfriend either earlier today or yesterday. I said, here's what I don't understand. Disney bought Star Wars. They literally, at the time of purchase, they bought a license to print money.
Yeah.
It's Star Wars, of all fucking things. And in a decade, they have burned this franchise to the ground so bad that if you add up, and I watched some guy do the math the other day, if you add up the movies, so the new trilogy and these TV shows, they still have not made their purchase money back.
What's strange?
How is that possible?
What's strange to me is this is also the company that bought Marvel. And
yeah.
Somehow, present stuff notwithstanding, but somehow nailed a 10-year run of Marvel stuff.
So they should easily nailed a 10-year run of Star Wars.
But I think the problem with Star Wars is with Marvel, they at least like kind of did the first couple things kind of on the fly, and then they finally were like, let's get one guy. One guy's just going to be in charge. He'll make the decisions. He'll keep it all tied together. Kevin Feige, you're the guy. And
yeah, I agree.
Star Wars has always been like, well, who can we get now? Well, who can we get to do this? Oh, what? All right, but we need somebody else to do this because we're going to film it at the same time we do this. And it's like,
well, so Star Wars, they do have a head person like Kevin Feige, but she's not very good.
She doesn't seem. But the thing is,
they made fun of her on South Park.
But the thing is like, if they do have that person, I should have, like, with the amount of media news I can consume, I should at least probably know who that is.
But you can trace it all the way back to the beginning when they announced that trilogy. What was the first mistake they made there with a new trilogy? You have 3 different directors.
No, it should have been one person making the same.
And each director is going to write their own part of the story. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Should have been one person
who wrote all 3 movies.
Yeah.
Or at least had, like, here's the idea.
Here's the
second
outline.
Third one's going to be this.
Yeah.
Then you bring in people to write that and you go over it with them.
That's what should have happened, and it didn't happen.
Because then you get one story, because that's the point. 4, 5, and 6 is one story. 1, 2, and 3 is one story that's kind of crammed into a tight space.
It is, but it's still one story. Right. And it's fun to look back now, like people that shit on that trilogy at the time.
Not as bad as you think, right?
Not as bad as you think. It was just more politically charged. For what? I mean, like, the movie's all about like senates and stuff. Yeah, exactly.
title.
But it's just no. I've lost pretty much any faith in Star Wars. It's at a I would say for me it's at a worse level than Marvel stuff. Like there's still at least Marvel stuff I have some interest in. Like Deadpool's going to be fine.
Fantastic Four is coming. That has a chance.
That does have a chance.
We're gonna redo X-Men now.
Blade does not have a chance.
Blade is dead.
Blade is at a situation where I look at it and go like, let's just cancel it.
Or how about he doesn't need his own movie? How about he can show up in something else?
Yeah, that's fine too.
How about what they do is, since Daredevil's coming back, we do a series that's Daredevil, Moon Knight, and then Blade is there too.
That's fine.
Got, like,
I would be
three. You do Marvel Knights, and you get these three dudes to hang out and do that.
They did a Blade TV show once. You can do it again.
Like that, if the Blade movie is going to be such a train wreck, especially after we're going Ant-Man sucked and all these others, you've already got an established Daredevil who's coming back, and that's going to be good. You've got Moon Knight, which I would love for a season 2. I think they're still like, oh, we don't know yet, but he was great in it.
Yeah, I'm sure he was fine. I didn't watch Moon Knight, but
just
I'm sure
make
he was
the next season of Moon Knight Marvel Knights. And Daredevil and Blade showed up. Done. Yeah. It's not hard. They want to make as many properties as possible to make as much money as possible, but
they do.
There's a smarter way to do it. In Star Wars,
Deadpool. Do you think Deadpool? Let me ask this question: do you think Deadpool will hit $1 billion this year? I think so too.
I think it's the only one left that has a chance. I am very excited for a new Captain America just because it is Anthony Mackie's great as Falcon, and it's a good this is how you continue it without it being Chris Evans as Captain America. It works.
I'm excited for that. And I've always been excited for that because I like that storyline of him. Yeah, of him taking over. The problem I have with that movie has been reshot to hell so many times now. I think maybe part of the problem is Deadpool. Because I think Deadpool is going to have ramifications for this stuff, and they're going to do a lot.
It's a reset button for a lot of stuff.
Well, so you have a reset on the front end of Captain America and probably a reset on the back end of it as well because you're not doing Kane anymore.
Right.
Who knows if there was stuff about that in that movie?
And I think that maybe the Kang stuff kind of goes away, but then Fantastic Four comes out. And even though that's supposed to be set in the past, I would bet you by the end of that movie, they are in whatever the current year is within the MCU.
They would have to be.
And then Doom becomes the problem.
Okay.
There's a way to do that too, because Fantastic Four is very much a time and space series of comics. So there's a way. Do you think there's a way in which they just make Dr. Doom the new Kang? That's what I'm saying. So you do Fantastic Four, and by the end of that, something happens where the Fantastic Four and Doom are pushed into, I think the MCU is currently at 2027 or whatever the fuck year it is in that thing. So then they're thrust forward into the present timeline because then they can just enter it and already be established. And then Doom sets out to become the big bad, and you can stretch that out over multiple.
It'd be 5 years into the future from now because that was what the snap was.
So then, but then that would also Doom would also be where I would take Secret Wars. He would be the ultimate bad guy in that.
Okay.
And there's, like I said, as a Marvel guy who's read everybody and all the different fucking stories and all that stuff, you can build this stuff the way you want. There's enough leeway to change shit. They just seem to get stuck on certain things. I think naming that movie The Kang Dynasty 10 years before it was even bound to come out was a mistake. Not that you could have really ever predicted that this would happen, but maybe don't base everything off a character being there in a decade.
I agree with that.
And what's next for Star Wars? Do they have something in place after this?
They are making a Mandalorian movie. That was kind of where they left the Mandalorian now. Because the other thing I'll say that's weird about that show is the way that third season ended. You could have told me that was a series finale, and I would have been fine. Because the way it ends, the Mandalorian and Grogu are just hanging out in a hut, and it's this is fine. But they obviously, since that's their most successful property with Star Wars since they've taken over, you're gonna make a movie of that. So that's supposed to be 2026. That guy's shooting it right now, because then I think after that he's been going back and forth between that and Last of Us. and then whenever
And
Fantastic Four is going to shoot. So that dude's incredibly busy. That's why when they announced him for Fantastic Four, I'm like, really?
I like him a lot. I still think that's a bad call. I think you should have made all of them 5 years younger. I mean, really just him.
Yeah, probably just him, because the girl is the right age,
and
the guy playing Ben Grimm, he's from The Bear,
right? And the Human Torch kid is young too.
He's fine. Yeah, so that's you know who that is? Did you ever watch the 4th season of Stranger Things?
No, I never got to it.
He's that Eddie Munson guy that played the Metallica song.
But he's a younger.
That's fine.
Younger guy too.
Yeah, he's a younger guy.
But isn't the goal is to hope it kicks off and then do 2 movies and then all the crossovers?
Yeah,
that's 10
I would
years.
assume so.
Maybe pick somebody else. There was someone else who could have done it. I get why you did it, because immediately people go, "Oh, he's in it. I love him. I'm gonna go see it." But
yeah, like that's the thing. As far as Star Wars, the only other thing that's supposedly in the future is this Rey movie that nobody wants.
Oh, right. Yeah, I hear about that
because nobody cares.
Right.
That character, and it was brought up on something I was watching recently where the person asked somebody else, like, name one line that resonates with somebody that character said in those 3 movies, and they couldn't answer it because there isn't anything memorable that she said in those 3 movies. So it's like, why make a movie about that then? Well, how much further can you dig this franchise into a grave? So I don't know.
Let's do a young Palpatine movie. And it turns out in the young Palpatine movie, he actually built General Grievous. And that's the kind of shit they do when they make this stuff up on the fly.
My girlfriend said it the other day, and I think she has the correct opinion in this case, is that the only good thing Disney did in the 10 years they've had Star Wars is the final few minutes of that I keep wanting to say Rebel Moon. God, no. Rogue One. Because they have that scene, and I'm sure you've seen this scene played somewhere, where they lead it up to the beginning of A New Hope, where Darth Vader's just fucking destroying all those dudes in that hallway. Amazing.
Right, because you actually built him up as a villain.
Well, he's the number 1 villain, and they never ruined that character.
The thing, though, is like in 4, 5, and 6, you don't actually see him do a whole lot.
Not like that.
You know what I mean? Yeah. He's always there. He's an imposing figure.
He's intimidating, but not like that. He
chokes a guy in a board meeting, but you don't see him absolutely kick someo's ass.
Yeah.
The last time you saw him before 5 and 6, technically, he was half dead in a volcano. Wow, big deal.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I had to sit back and think, I didn't even particularly care for that movie, but that is a great scene.
That's a rush job for the movie, and they're like, man, how do we wrap this up so that it fits into 4?
It's a great way to wrap that up.
And then have him in this pot.
But in a franchise that also, they systematically took Luke and Han and destroyed those characters to get here's our new character, Rey. You need to like this character, not Han Solo anymore. They killed him off. Not Luke Skywalker. They killed him off. They turned Luke Skywalker into a hermit who almost killed his nephew. I don't know if you know that.
No.
That's Last Jedi. That's a very loose interpretation.
He was like a hermit, and then he's a ghost.
Drinking some weird milk. Yeah. His last effort is he turns into what I would call a Force ghost to fight Kylo Ren. But then he disappears like Yoda.
Sure,
it's bad. It's really bad. The only person I'd say that made it out of those 3 movies in a good place is Carrie Fisher, and that's because unfortunately she died.
Right.
So they didn't have a chance to do anything dumb with her character, other than they had her fly through space at one point in Last Jedi. So I don't know. Star Wars, I think, it's in such a trash place, and it sucks because it's a franchise that I grew up with. And I mean, there was a point where I read that encyclopedia from front to back as a kid. I was in hard, and it's to watch it be destroyed and desecrated in the way that it has been it's shameful. So, I watched the Acolyte. No, I will say I watch the YouTuber, The Critical Drinker. I will watch every single one of his reviews of each episode, because he hates it as much as I do. Watching every episode, he's like, I don't want to do this anymore, but I have to. So, but we'll wrap it up here. So, as always, thank you for listening. Send your emails to podcast572@gmail.com. And we will be back in another 2 weeks for another edition of the podcast.
Thank you, everyone.